Chapter 674. If he entered Amethyst Mountain, what would happen to Seoshur? Would he have to abandon everything, abandon Seoshur and the Secret Guardians Hall's mission, and enter Amethyst Mountain? In the beginning, he took care of Seoshur to help Seochi, but now it was no longer just to help Seochi. If he entered Amethyst Mountain, what if King and regained his martial arts and caused trouble for Seoshur during this period? Who would stand up for her? Even with the Sarira beads, it was not foolproof. No matter how he thought about it, he could not enter Amethyst Mountain. He was actually fascinated by the four major sects, just like how people who never went to university felt about universities in his past life. His cultivation level came by luck. He lacked a systematic and solid foundation. He came from an unorthodox background. Even if he read all the books in the High Duke's public house and King Anne's imperial residence, he still could not hide the shortcoming of not having a solid foundation. No matter how smart or powerful he was, without sufficient knowledge, he would still make too many mistakes, sometimes fatal mistakes. Just like Seochi, if Lu Yurong did not remind him, he would still be foolishly kept in the dark, not knowing that Seochi would leave this world once she became an enlightened master. To enter the enlightened master's boundary, a solid foundation was crucial. Why did only the four major sects send out enlightened masters, but not the other sects? There must be a reason. If he did not enter the four major sects, it would be much harder for him to become an enlightened master. If he entered the four major sects, it would be much easier. Head Chief Seo? Yu Qing saw his uncertain expression and called out softly. Chu Li looked up and smiled at her, entering Amethyst Mountain. I have to think about it. Yu Qing smiled. What are you hesitating for, Head Chief? This is a once-in-a-blue-moon opportunity. Even though the Head Chief is a Grandmaster, Grandmasters are still different. The difference is like heaven and earth. Only by joining the four major sects can you go further. If the Head Chief doesn't join now, you'll definitely be surpassed by Fa Yuan in the future. Chu Li nodded thoughtfully. Yu Qing asked, What's the problem, Head Chief? Chu Li shook his head. I'll think about it. Miss Yu Qing, I'll take my leave first. Alright, then think about it. This is a rare opportunity. There are very few disciples in Amethyst Mountain. Not everyone can join, Yu Qing said softly. Chu Li smiled, closed fist saluted and left. When he returned to the imperial residence of King An, he saw that the Tianshu courtyard was brightly lit. Xiao Shi was playing the guzheng in the courtyard. The sound of the guzheng was faint, and the atmosphere was majestic. He strolled into the courtyard. Seo Shi glanced at him, but her hands did not stop moving. When the song was over, she pressed the chords and looked at Chu Li. You're back so early? Didn't you have a few drinks with the beauty? Chu Li sat by the stone table and grunted. He took the teacup from Menglan and took a sip. Seo Shi noticed his odd expression. Is something bothering you? Chu Li shook his head and looked at her thoughtfully. Xiao Shi touched her beautiful face. What's wrong? You're acting weird. Chu Li smiled. What if I join another faction to cultivate and leave for a year and a half? How does that sound? Which sect should I join? Amethyst Mountain. He wants you? Xiao Shi chuckled. You're dreaming. I almost joined the Amethyst Mountain. Chu Li said, if it wasn't for the person whom the third lady asked to go into isolated cultivation, he would be a disciple of the Amethyst Mountain by now. I've heard about it from my sister. Seo Shi said, you're really unlucky. There are many benefits to being a disciple of the four major sections. It's much better than being in the House of High Dukes, and even better than being here. With your aptitude, who knows how many of those martial arts you'll be able to cultivate? Chu Li shook his head and smiled. Fate is unpredictable. He thought he had missed out on the Amethyst Mountain. He did not expect to go one big round and come back. Seo Shi said, You want to go in again? I'm afraid not. When you reach the Grandmaster's boundary, your martial arts foundation has already been fixed. There's no room for change and no potential. Why would they accept a disciple like you? I can go in, Chuli said. Seo Shi burst into laughter. Her beauty was shocking. She rolled her eyes. You have a deep grudge with the Amethyst Mountain. Moreover, you're rank 1 and a centurion of the Secret Guardians Hall. It's impossible for you to be loyal to the Amethyst Mountain. Why would the Amethyst Mountain want you? I have my ways. Chuli smiled. Seo Shi smiled. All right, then go. Chuli said, I really have a way to enter the Amethyst Mountain. Then go in. Seo Shi said, you'll be able to get in touch with martial arts knowledge that you wouldn't be able to see in the outside world. If you learn these, you'll be able to go further in the future. Sister's elder has come out of isolation? Chuli shook his head. That person is really unreliable. Seo Shi scoffed. But it's also because you advance too quickly. If it was someone else, breaking through to the Grandmaster's boundary wouldn't take more than 2 to 3 years. Chuli said, if I enter the Amethyst Mountain, what will happen to you, my lady? Me? Seo Shi scoffed. Do you think I can't live without you? I'll just live my life as I should. Chuli shook his head. I'm really worried. Seo Shi said, don't you have the Sarira prayer beads? If there's any danger, I'll call you back. Moreover, you have divine powers. You can come back at any time. If I'm not here, Princeton will definitely be restless. Chuli frowned. Seo Shi scoffed. If you're not here, maybe he won't have a knot in his heart. He won't do anything that goes too far. Chuli shook his head. How could it be so simple? Princeton kept finding trouble with him. Although it was because of his inner demons, more importantly, it was because of benefit. He wanted to get rid of his relationship with the public house, and get rid of the obstacles on his path to the throne. It was not just a matter of personal feelings. Seo Shi rolled her eyes at him and scoffed. All right, isn't he an isolated cultivation? If he's about to come out, you can just cripple him. Chuli laughed and slowly nodded. This was the only way. The Secret Guardians Hall is very troublesome. Chuli sighed. Information from the Secret Guardians Hall was very important. It was not important now, but it would be very useful in the future. Moreover, once a secret guardian, he would always be a secret guardian. It was impossible to leave. This is troublesome. Seo Shi nodded. She also understood the situation of the Secret Guardians Hall. It was impossible to quit. In his situation, the Secret Guardians Hall would never agree to it. Then forget it. Chuli sighed. The Secret Guardians Hall was just an excuse. If it really did not work, he could fake his death. He had been struggling and hesitating. Logically speaking, he should have joined the Amethyst Mountain without hesitation and cultivated the nature restoration manifestation to break Seo Chi's inner state and regain her heart. However, he was struggling in his heart. He did not want to leave this place and go to the Amethyst Mountain. The root cause was Seo Shi. He was really worried about Seo Shi being alone. She did not know martial arts. As the daughter of the High Duke's public house, many martial arts masters wanted to assassinate her. Although Zhu Tianhua and the others were strong, they could not guarantee success. His eclipse purloin technique was getting harder and harder to perform. If she died, he could not perform the eclipse purloin technique. What should he do? Seo Shi said, if he really can join the Amethyst Mountain, he can't let it go. Chuli smiled. Let me think about it. What's there to think about? Seo Shi said impatiently. If you want to become an enlightened master, you must enter the 4 major sections. Until now, other than the Emperor, there is no enlightened master who is not from the 4 major sects. Seo Shi continued, for thousands of years, there have been countless geniuses. It's not that there are none who are smarter than you. However, those who did not enter the 4 major sects, no matter how talented they are, did not become enlightened master. Do you want to walk the most difficult path instead of the easiest one? Chapter 675. P.S. 6 update complete. Seo sure was annoyed. You don't listen to me anymore. Looks like you have to talk to my younger sister. Chuli said, she doesn't want to see me now. What are you guys doing? Seo sure asked. Chuli shook his head. Let's talk about it in a few days. It's getting late. You should rest. Looks like you really can visit the Amethyst Mountain. I'm telling you, don't be stupid. If you don't grab the opportunity, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. Chuli nodded, waved his hand and left the Tianshu courtyard. The next morning, Chuli laid on his bed and did not want to get up. Ling Qiu and Ling Qing were already practicing their swordsmanship in the courtyard. The sound of the swords whistling could be heard. The two women were progressing very quickly. Their mastery of the first form of godly sword was getting better. He laid on the bed and looked at the algae well on the roof. His thoughts were wandering. Head Chief? Chief Zhu's voice came from outside the courtyard. Chuli got up from his bed and said, "Come in." Chief Zhu pushed the door open and entered the courtyard. He closed fist saluted the two women and came to Chuli. Chuli scoffed, "How dare you come here?" Hee. Chief Zhu said embarrassedly, "Please forgive me, Head Chief. This time, it's Miss Yu Qing's invitation again." Chuli raised his eyebrows and took it. Chief Zhu chuckled. His expression was a little strange. He showed a look of admiration. "Head Chief, are you going to redeem Miss Yu Qing?" Chuli laughed, "How dare you? Go do what you have to do." "Haha, then I wish Head Chief success." Chief Zhu chuckled and cupped his fists before leaving. Ling Qiu and Ling Qing glanced over. They obviously heard it. Chuli said, "Don't be distracted when practicing your swordsmanship. Otherwise, your energy will not be pure. It's useless even if you practice." "Yes," Ling Qiu and Ling Qing replied. They rolled their eyes and continued practicing. A bright moon hung in the sky like an ice wheel that revolved slowly, and it emanated clear radiance that covered the ground. Chuli came to the verdant cloud brothel and handed the invitation to the protector. The protector glanced at it and smiled. "Miss Yu Qing has told us to invite Head Chief Chu as soon as you come. You're welcome." Chuli nodded and slowly walked into the courtyard. Then, he followed the path he took yesterday to the small courtyard. The maid welcomed him into the living room. Yu Qing was dressed in a jade-green gown. Her face was snow-white, and her eyes were as gentle as water. She was quietly reading a book. Hearing the footsteps, Yu Qing put down her book, stood up and curtsied. "Head Chief, sorry to disturb you." Chuli smiled. "Not at all. I'm the one who should be flattered." Xueqing said, "I've already conveyed the Head Chief's intentions to the sect. The sect welcomes the Head Chief." Chuli smiled bitterly and closed fist saluted. "But I really can't split myself up. I can't enter Amethyst Mountain." "Head Chief, please sit down and talk." Yu Qing personally brewed some tea, brought it to him, and sat down in front of him. The two of them sat on opposite ends of the low table, separated by 2 steps. She said softly, "Actually, there is a way to make an exception." Chuli was surprised to see her. Yu Qing said, "Not all of our disciples are on the mountain. Many of them are at the foot of the mountain. However, the disciples on the mountain are usually able to cultivate in peace, while the disciples at the foot of the mountain are usually busy with mundane tasks. They are not focused enough on their cultivation, so their cultivation is slightly weaker." Chuli nodded slowly. Yu Qing said, "Other than the 12 peaks, there are also the obvious and hidden sects. They are entangled with the 12 peaks." "I'm all ears." Chuli leaned forward. He could feel the importance that Amethyst Mountain placed on him. They were indeed eager to accept him into the mountain. The main reason was that he could see through the Phantom Een skill, and he was the best candidate to cultivate the Phantom Een skill. His achievements would definitely surpass others. The obvious sect disciples walk the martial arts world with the identity of Amethyst Mountain disciples. As for the hidden sect disciples, they conceal their identity and hide in the world. They observe the mundane world and cultivate in secret. They only appear at the crucial moment and conceal their identity again. The hidden sect and the obvious sect. Chu nodded thoughtfully. This was new to him. The obvious sect disciples are those who enter the dojo. They represent the face of Amethyst Mountain. As for the hidden sect disciples, they don't have to enter the dojo. Even if their cultivation is insufficient, they can leave the mountain and cultivate slowly, Yu Qing said. Chu said, Miss Yu Qing, your cultivation is sufficient to leave the mountain. Yu Qing shook her head. Not enough. I couldn't enter the dojo. Chu sighed. Miss Yu Qing is a hidden sect disciple? Yes. The hidden sect disciples make up the majority. There are only a few obvious sect disciples, Yu Qing said. If you really can't give up everything here, you can become a hidden sect disciple first. Chu was deep in thought. This was a good idea. Amethyst Mountain was indeed extraordinary. In order to attract talents, they would do anything to attract talent. How could such a broad-minded sect not prosper? How about it? Yu Qing asked. Do you want to join my sect? Chu asked, How do I cultivate? You can enter the mountain or not, Yu Qing said. It's best to enter the mountain. But if you don't want to, you can impart your martial arts outside the mountain. There will be a specialized teacher coming. Chu nodded slowly. Footsteps could be heard from outside. The maid's voice was heard. My lady, Senior Shen is here. Invite Senior Shen in, Yu Qing said hurriedly. She stood up and went out to welcome him. Soon, she brought in a handsome but dull middle-aged man. His eyes were deep and sharp, as if he could see through people. Chu looked at him. He vaguely felt that he looked familiar, but he had never seen him before. This is Masters Junior Shin, Yu Qing said. Masters Junior Shin Su. Chu was stunned. He had a photographic memory. Once he heard the name and the identity of Amethyst Mountain, he immediately knew who he was. Shin Su was the person Shao Qi wanted to ask. She wanted him to guide him into Amethyst Mountain. In the end, Shin Su was in isolated cultivation and delayed. Shin Su looked at Chu and asked, How is young Qi? Your third ladies? Chu asked. Her uncle, Shin Su said. Chu nodded. No wonder he looked familiar. It was because he looked like Sheninghu. Then Senior Sheninghu is? My second sister, Shin Su said. Chu quickly closed fist, saluted. Greetings, Senior Shin. Shin Su said, No need for formalities. I just came out of isolated cultivation and found out about you. I came to guide you into Amethyst Mountain. But I. Chu said. Shin Su shook his head. Before I went into isolated cultivation, I already reported to the sect leader. The sect leader has agreed to let you enter the sect. It's not too late for you to come now. It's all my fault. I didn't expect my isolated cultivation to be so long. It delayed your cultivation. Chu said, I can't leave the fairy's capital. I need to cultivate in the imperial residence of King N. That's easy. I'll personally teach you martial arts. You want to learn the nature restoration manifestation, right? Shin Su said. Chu nodded. Shin Su said, What a coincidence. I'm a disciple of the nature peak. Chu looked at him doubtfully. How could there be such a coincidence? Shin Su said, What's the use of learning the nature restoration manifestation? This martial art isn't powerful enough. It's not suitable for defeating enemies. I advise you to learn something else. Chu shook his head. Shin Su said, Then I'll train first. I'll find a time to go back and learn other martial arts. Chapter 676. Shin Su smiled and nodded. You and the Amethyst Mountain are connected by fate. After such a long delay, it's good that you didn't miss it. Yu Qing smiled sweetly. Junior brother Chu, we're a family from now on. Congratulations. What's senior sister Yu Qing's name? Chu smiled. Yu Qing replied, Mo Qingyu. Why is senior sister Mo here? Chu Li looked into the house. Mo Qingyu smiled. Junior brother Chu, are you looking down on me? Chu Li replied, not really. I just feel that it's too unfair to senior sister Mo. How can a Amethyst Mountain disciple stay in a place like this? Mo Qingyu shook her head and smiled. Shen Su said, Chu Li, now that you've entered the sect, you should know that the Amethyst Mountain has 12 peaks, and each peak has its own unique martial arts. There are all kinds of cultivation methods, and most of them cannot be cultivated on the mountain. This is the fundamental difference between the Amethyst Mountain and the other 3 sections. Chu Li nodded thoughtfully. Shen Su said, disciples of the ethereal peak have the ethereal heavenly heart. They need to be able to see through people's hearts and have a unique understanding of their evil and unpredictability. Only then can they understand the ethereal heavenly heart. The disciples of the ethereal peak are the best at hiding their cultivation level. Mo Qingyu's ethereal heavenly heart is only a small success, yet you can still sense something off about her. Her qualifications are indeed very suitable for the Amethyst Mountain. Chu Li smiled. Senior sister Mo is not here just to cultivate, right? Mo Qingyu pursed her lips and smiled. Of course, I'm also here to accumulate merits to cultivate the martial arts of the other 11 peaks. Shen Su said, you can cultivate the martial arts of all 12 peaks, but other than this peak, the heart techniques of the other 11 peaks require sufficient merits to cultivate. Chu Li pondered. I'm a disciple of the nature peak now. If I want to cultivate the ethereal heavenly heart, I have to accumulate enough merits? This system was a great stimulus for the disciples. They could not bury their heads in cultivation, they had to contribute to the world. Yes. Shen Su nodded. But other than the Phantom Een Peak, all disciples can cultivate the martial arts of the Phantom Een Peak. It's almost the representative martial arts of the Amethyst Mountain. Everyone has to cultivate it. The martial arts of the Phantom Een Peak are the strongest. The martial arts of the Phantom Een Peak are the weakest among the 12 peaks, but they are also the easiest to master. Shen Su shook his head and sighed. The martial arts of the other 11 peaks have always been difficult to cultivate. Now that the spiritual qi has dispersed and the world has changed, it has become even more difficult. Fortunately, we have the Phantom Een Peak. Mo Qingyu smiled and said, take my Misty Peak's Misty Heavenly Heart mantra, for example. If you don't have talent, you won't be able to master it even if you practice hard for a lifetime. Once you've mastered it, the human heart will become the heavenly heart, and you won't be disturbed by the outside world. You'll be able to advance very quickly when you practice martial arts, and your brain will become more and more useful. Chu Li asked, how does senior sister Mo accumulate credit? Junior brother Chu, you're from the Secret Guardians Hall, of course you know. Mo Qingyu cast a sidelong glance at him. The customers of the Verdant Cloud brothel are either rich or of high status. The information they provide is hard to come by. This information is just scratching an itch through my boots. It's not that important. Chu Li shook his head. The truly important news would not be reported to the Verdant Cloud brothel. Instead, they would usually hide in the secret rooms at home. However, these could be found out by the Secret Guardians Hall. Therefore, the information that Mo Qingyu gathered was not that important. It was difficult to gain credit. Mo Qingyu smiled. I'm also in charge of finding talented disciples to recommend to the sect. I'm also in charge of inspecting them. In short, I have many things to do, so I don't have to worry about having nothing to do. Chu Li asked, does the sect have any goals? Shen Su shook his head and sighed. There's only one goal now, and that is to surpass the Tempest Temple. Enlightened Master? Chu Li asked. The sect wants to create an enlightened master? Yes. Shen Su nodded. You're one of our hopes. You're able to suppress Fa Yuan, and you have unique qualifications. You're most suitable to cultivate the martial arts of the Phantom Een Peak. If you train well, You might be able to defeat Fa Yuan in the future and take back your position as an enlightened master. Chu Li shook his head and smiled. You think too highly of me, Shen Su said. As long as there's a sliver of hope, the sect will put in a lot of effort. Otherwise, why would they be so accommodating to you? I've been in the Verdant Cloud brothel for a few days and carefully investigated your information. I didn't expect you to come by yourself. If you didn't come, we would have taken the initiative to look for you in 2 days. It's obvious that you're fated with the Amethyst Mountain. You're born to be a disciple of the Amethyst Mountain. What a coincidence! Chu Li smiled and nodded slowly. I know how to use my heart. If it were not for Shao Qi's firm state of mind, he would not have thought of cultivating the nature restoration manifestation, nor would he have taken the initiative to look for Mo Qingyu. Therefore, the wonders of the world really frightened him. He felt as if there was an invisible hand manipulating him. Heaven's will was unpredictable. The sect wanted to create an enlightened master, and he wanted to become one as well. Both of their goals were the same. Previously, he only wanted to learn the nature restoration manifestation, but now, he had gained more recognition from the Amethyst Mountain. He turned his head and smiled. Senior Sister Mo, we're a family from now on. We have to help each other. Mo Qingyu pursed her lips and smiled. I'll have to rely on you, Junior Brother Chu. Chu Li shook his head. Let's help each other. Shen Su said, the Amethyst Mountain has 2 basic rules. The first is that disciples of the same sect are not allowed to kill each other and must help each other. The second is that the martial arts of the Amethyst Mountain are not allowed to be taught to outsiders. There are no other rules. Let your senior sister explain it to you in detail. I'll teach you the heart technique today. Chu Li said, Senior Shen can just stay in the imperial residence. Shen Su shook his head. You're a disciple of the hidden sect. Don't let anyone discover your identity. I've stayed here for a while, and it's time for me to leave, lest something unexpected happens. Chu Li did not say anything else and nodded. Mo Qingyu said, Masters Junior Shen, Junior Brother Chu, let's go to the quiet room at the back. She personally led the 2 of them out of the living room and into a room at the back of the courtyard. Then, she left. It was a very narrow room. Apart from a bed, there was nothing else in the room. It was clean and tidy. There's no need for an induction ceremony. You just have to swear to abide by the rules of the Amethyst Mountain, Shen Su said. Chu Li obeyed and swore an oath, then looked at him seriously. Shen Su's expression was serious. He said, the nature restoration manifestation is different from normal martial arts. It's actually a technique of deduction. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Shen Su continued, this technique is difficult to learn, and the difference in power is like heaven and earth. Some people, after mastering it, have shocking power. They can see through opportunities and are invincible. Some people, after mastering it, can barely avoid danger. Chu Li was even more curious. What kind of mystical technique was this? Everything comes from one element, and everything returns to one element. Everything comes from the heart. Every word and action, every movement and every stillness, are all driven by the heart. They are all the things in the heart. Shen Su's expression was serious. Chu Li frowned. Could it be the Buddhist mind reading? If that was the case, there was no need for him to learn this. His omniscient mirror had this ability, which could point directly to the heart. Chapter 677. Chu Li nodded slowly. The nature restoration manifestation can't be like the eye of insight, can it? Yes. Shen Su nodded. You can't see other people's thoughts, but you can feel them. It's a mysterious feeling. You'll know after cultivating it. The nature restoration manifestation is only average for me, but it might work for you. You're much smarter than me. Chu Li smiled and shook his head. Senior Shen, you're too humble. You should call me master. Shen Su shook his head. I never lie. I'm as honest as I can be. Listen to the incantation. He recited a part of the incantation. Chu Li listened carefully. Shen Su asked him to repeat it, and Chu Li repeated it word for word. Shen Su nodded. If you can't memorize it after 3 times, you're not suitable to cultivate this technique. Remember it in one go. It's indeed suitable for this technique, and it'll be very powerful. I'll explain it to you in detail. Chu Li nodded and listened attentively. Unknowingly, an hour had passed. Chu Li had no more questions, and all that was left was to cultivate. Shen Su took out a sparkling white statue from his bosom. It was the size of a palm, and it was lifelike. It was a statue of a Taoist in a feather robe. His handsome face had a smile on it, and his steps were light and graceful. This is the legacy item of our nature peak, Shen Su said. Without this, you can't cultivate even if you get the heart technique. He passed it to Chu Li. Hold it and start cultivating. See if you can get started. Chu Li took it. It was warm to the touch, but there was a hint of heat. It was like jade but not jade. The material was strange. He knew it was not jade the moment he touched it. It was so hard that swords could not leave a mark on it. Touching the white statue, he closed his eyes and started cultivating the heart technique. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth flowed along a strange path. It was a path that he had never thought of before. As he was cultivating, a burning force entered his body from his palm, merging with the flowing spiritual energy. After one circulation, his mind lit up. Suddenly, a space appeared in front of him. It looked like the small house he was in. As the manifestation of nature restoration continued to circulate, waves of scorching aura seeped into his body. The small house first appeared in his mind, then himself, and then Shen Su. The Shen Su in Chu Li's mind was staring at him. His brows were slightly furrowed, his eyes were clear, his lips were slightly pursed, his shoulders were slumped, his hands were clenched into fists, and the muscles on his back were tense. He looked at him eagerly, as if he was about to speak at any moment. Chu Li could not see what was going on in Shen Su's mind, but he could feel that he was very nervous. Shen Su wanted nothing more than to help, and he was ready to explain the incantation at any time to help. This was indeed a mysterious feeling, as if everything was under his control. He was very clear about what Shen Su was going to do next. "How is it?" Shen Su saw him open his eyes and quickly asked. Chu Li smiled and said, "I've seen you and me in my mind. Does that mean I've mastered it?" "He is indeed a genius." Shen Su nodded his head and said, "Yes, I've mastered it. Next, I'll have to improve bit by bit. When I reach the deepest level, I'll be able to see further, see more, and see deeper." Chu Li nodded. "Thank you, Senior Shen. Now I can be considered to be your master." Shen Su said, "Your previous master taught you Dharma, I taught you martial arts, we have nothing to do with each other." "Yes, thank you, Master." Chu Li shook his head and smiled as he closed-fist saluted. He was not used to it. His master was Master Skyleaf from the Temple of Autumn. He had gone back a few times, and now that he was still alive, it was time for him to go back and visit. Sigh. Shen Su shook his head and sighed. "It's not that I want to force you to call me master, it's just that I have no other choice. Now, only you and I are left in the peak of nature." Chu Li was stunned. Shen Su shook his head and sighed. "The martial arts of the peak of nature is difficult to master, and its power is average, so there are very few disciples. Other than the disciples from other peaks, you're the only official disciple." Chu Li smiled bitterly. "Is it that difficult?" "It requires too much talent." Shen Su shook his head and said, "If I hadn't eaten a miraculous fruit when I was young, I wouldn't have been able to master it." Chu Li looked at him curiously. Shen Su said, "Back then, eldest sister obtained an ancient ruin, and this miraculous fruit was left there. There were 2 of them, I ate one and gave the other to young Qi." Chu Li nodded slowly. He guessed that this miraculous fruit was used to strengthen the soul. However, although Shen Su's soul was strong, far stronger than ordinary people, it could not stop his omniscient mirror. It was far from Shao Qi's. It might have something to do with the technique he cultivated. Shen Su said, "Fortunately, there's you, the peak of nature is not destroyed. After I die, you'll be the peak leader, and the most important thing will be the same as me, to find a successor and pass down the nature restoration manifestation." Chu Li smiled. "It's still too early for that." Shen Su said, "That's true, those who can cultivate the nature restoration manifestation have a long life. It's fine to live up to 300 years. Alright, it's not suitable for you to stay for too long, go back." "Master, you're leaving?" Chu Li asked. He was not used to the word master, so it was a little stiff. Shen Su nodded and said, "I'll leave immediately too. If you have time, come back to the mountain to take a look." "Yes," Chu Li closed fist saluted. When he returned to Tianshu courtyard, it was already late at night. Xiao Shi was still awake, pacing in the courtyard, obviously waiting for him. Seeing him return, Xiao Shi said unhappily, "You're finally back." Chu Li smiled. "From today onwards, I'm a disciple of the Amethyst Mountain." Xiao Shi looked at him in surprise. Chu Li told her what happened, and Xiao Shi was shocked. "You're a disciple of the Amethyst Mountain now?" Xiao Shi said in disbelief. "That's too fast and too easy." She knew how difficult it was to enter the 4 major sections. Many geniuses wanted to enter but were rejected. Before they could enter, they had to go through countless tests and at least 3 years of observation before they could finally step into the sect. Chu Li, on the other hand, entered without a word. Moreover, he had too many disadvantages, so why would the Amethyst Mountain agree? Chu Li smiled and said, "Because my qualifications are good enough, and they're thirsty for talent, so we hit it off. The most important thing is that the third lady's uncle is now my master." "Uncle?" Xiao Shi was surprised. Chu Li looked at her expression and did not know Shen Su's identity. Xiao Shi shook her head. "Sister's mother's identity is sensitive. Father had given a strict order not to talk about it, so I really don't know what siblings she has. I didn't expect her uncle to be a disciple of the Amethyst Mountain." Chu Li said, "Why didn't the third lady enter the Amethyst Mountain?" "It must have something to do with the sword scripture that she cultivated," Xiao Shi said. Chu Li nodded. The regal sword scripture was powerful enough, so there might be more to it. He would ask when he had the chance. "You want to go to the Amethyst Mountain?" "Not now. I'll go when I have time in the future." "Then what's the difference between you and not entering the Amethyst Mountain?" "There's no difference." Chu Li smiled. "I don't have to go anywhere." Xiao Shi secretly sighed in relief. She said it nicely, asking Chu Li to enter the Amethyst Mountain and not care about her, but she was feeling melancholy. If he really left, she could not stay in the imperial residence of King An any longer. It would feel like a year. Now that he was not leaving, staying in the imperial residence of King An was quite comfortable, even though he was busy all day and only came back at night. Chu Li said, "I can finally have some peace and quiet. I want to focus on my cultivation in the imperial residence and not care about worldly affairs." Chapter 678. The next morning. The air in the courtyard was exceptionally fresh. One breath would make one feel light. Chu Li was cultivating the crouching bull punch in the courtyard while Ling Qiu and Ling Qiu were practicing their swordsmanship. Footsteps could be heard from outside. Qin Jin's voice was heard. "Centurion?" Chu Li asked, "What is it?" Qin Jin said, "Something big happened in town." Chu Li stopped his fist technique and left the courtyard. He saw Qin Jin and the other 3 standing outside the courtyard. "Centurion, the 5th prince of Prince Kong was murdered," Qin Jin said softly. "The magistrate is looking for the murderer." Chu Li frowned. "The 5th prince? Prince Kong has 6 princes, right?" "Yes." Qin Jin said, The fifth and sixth prince of Prince Kong don't do anything. They only eat, drink, and play. The other four princes are very capable. Prince Jiang was assassinated last night. He doesn't have any official position, right? Chu Li frowned. Qin Jin nodded. He doesn't have any official position. He just eats, drinks, and plays. Is there any progress? Chu Li asked. Qin Jin shook his head. There is no progress at all. The magistrate is so worried that he can't sleep. Prince Kong and the Emperor are keeping an eye on it. This case will probably end up with the secret guardian's hall. Let's go. Chu Li walked out. When they arrived at the Mei Air courtyard, Dong Qifei, Yang Zongwen, and the others were at the martial arts field. When they saw him enter, they came over to greet him. Chu Li waved his hand and said, "Go about your business. Yang Zongwen, come over." Yang Zongwen responded. Dong Qifei, Qin Jin, and the others returned to the martial arts field. Yang Zongwen followed Chu Li to the main hall and reported, "Centurion, is it about the fifth prince of Prince Kong? What happened?" Chu Li sat on the armchair. Yang Zongwen shook his head. It was a very precise and clean assassination. It was a fatal blow. The weapon used was a long and narrow treasure sword. It's an unusual weapon. It's not in the martial arts world, so we couldn't find any clues. Moreover, the assassination happened in the middle of the night. There were no pedestrians on the street. Prince Jiang and his followers were killed. Even their horses were killed. Chu Li said, "Judging by this technique, who do you think you are?" Yang Zongwen thought about it and shook his head. "I really can't think of anything. The case is still in the hands of the prefectural magistrate, but according to our calculations, it will be transferred to our residence sooner or later. Our Mei Air courtyard has the Centurion and the three Ning brothers, so we have long had the hope of snatching this case." Chu Li smiled. Yang Zongwen said, "The Centurion hasn't been here for a while, so there's a lot of gossip in the residence. If we don't perform a meritorious deed and suppress them, everyone's days will be difficult." Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Yang Zongwen looked around and said in a low voice, "The second in command has already recovered. He came over yesterday and was very picky about everyone, so we could only invite the Centurion over." Chu Li scoffed. "Why should I listen to him? After all, he is the deputy head. If we don't listen, he can punish us." Yang Zongwen said helplessly, "The manor is governed by military law." Chu Li scoffed. "Where is he now?" "He went out for a stroll. He has a lot of connections," Yang Zongwen said. "He doesn't want to stay here either. Everyone doesn't give him any face." Chu Li nodded slowly. "Help me investigate Miss Yu Qing from the Verdant Cloud brothel. Don't let anyone know. Investigate in secret. Miss Yu Qing." Yang Zongwen quickly nodded. "Yes, I will do it immediately." Chu Li said, "Oh right, let's not get involved in this assassination case." Yang Zongwen was confused. Chu Li shook his head. "This case is too complicated. It's better not to get involved. But Imperial Crown Prince Jiang doesn't seem to be a big shot." Yang Zongwen was even more confused. "I don't think he has any powerful enemies. It should be a personal dispute, right? Maybe it's a dispute within the royal family. The magistrate is afraid of it, but the secret guardian's hall is the least afraid of it." Chu Li shook his head. "Don't get involved. If others want to snatch it, let them." "Yes." Yang Zongwen nodded helplessly. Just as Yang Zongwen retreated, he saw Ma Kuan swagger into the Mei Air courtyard. He raised his voice and said, "Where is everyone? Where the hell did they go?" The people in the martial arts field looked at each other helplessly and came over to greet him. Chu Li usually did not pay attention to this. Sometimes, he would let them come over to greet him. Most of the time, he would just wave his hand after entering, indicating for them to continue with their own cultivation. However, according to the rules, they had to come over to greet him. Although Ma Kuan's attitude was bad and arrogant, he was in the right. They had no choice but to obey. Chu Li's voice suddenly came from the house. He said coldly, "Second in command Ma is so impressive." When Ma Kuan heard this voice, his expression changed slightly. Chu Li scoffed. "Come in, what are you waiting for?" Ma Kuan glared at Qin Jin and the others and strode into the living room. Chu Li sat on the armchair and sized Ma Kuan up. When Ma Kuan came in, he closed-fist saluted. "Centurion!" Chu Li looked at him. "Have you recovered from your injury?" Ma Kuan's expression was gloomy, but he slowly nodded. "Thank you for your concern, Centurion. I have recovered." Chu Li said, "I think you've recovered from your injury and forgot about the pain. You want to do it again, am I right?" Ma Kuan's face was cold and he did not say a word. Chu Li said in a low voice, "Why are you showing off in front of them? If you're so capable, then show off in front of me." Ma Kuan's face was gloomy and he did not speak. He scoffed to himself. "If I have a higher position than you, I'll make you wish you were dead every day." Chu Li said, "How about this? I see that you're bored out of your mind. Help me look into something." "Please instruct me, Centurion." Ma Kuan closed-fist saluted helplessly. Chu Li scoffed. "Last time, the cloud-slashing treasure manual caused the destruction of a few second-rate sections. I suspect that there's a mastermind behind this. It could also be the G Public House, or it could be the G Public House working together with someone else. It could even not be the G Public House. Investigate this thoroughly." "Yes." Ma Kuan nodded happily. He knew that if he hesitated, what awaited him would be another round of beatings. The wisest thing to do was to be honest and agree without hesitation. Chu Li said, "There's no one in the courtyard to help you. Think of a way yourself." "I'm afraid I can't do it alone," Ma Kuan said hurriedly. Chu Li looked at him. "You have a lot of connections. What can't you do with such a small matter?" "It's decided. I'll give you a month to investigate." "Yes," Ma Kuan said in a low voice. He was furious, but there was nothing he could do. Chu Li was already being lenient. He only sent him out and did not want to see him. If it was a more difficult task, Ma Kuan would not be able to handle it. If he did not know what was good for him, it would be another more tiring and difficult task. Chu Li nodded in satisfaction. "Very well, you can leave today." "Yes." Ma Kuan closed-fist saluted and turned to leave the main hall. Dong Qifei and the others saw Ma Kuan walk out with a cold face and left straight away. They let out a long sigh of relief. It seemed that the Centurion had taught him a lesson again. They would have good days ahead of them. Chu Li also left the Secret Guardians Hall and returned to the Imperial residence. He concentrated on cultivating the nature restoration manifestation. The more he cultivated, the clearer his mind became. His reaction became faster and his thoughts became more agile. He was stronger than before. He knew 10 things just by hearing one. He knew the wind just by seeing the leaves move. This strange feeling made him feel indescribably comfortable. Everything was under his control and he could do it with ease. He truly had the pearl of wisdom in his hands. 10 days passed unknowingly. The progress of the nature restoration manifestation was extremely fast. He had already passed the first level and reached the second level. He could see more clearly and the range was larger. Chapter 679. Chu Li vaguely felt that when he cultivated the nature restoration manifestation to its peak, he could foresee. The existence of the omniscient mirror made it easy for him to cultivate the nature restoration manifestation. The first step of observation was the most difficult to cultivate. An ordinary person's eyes and spirit were limited, so it was impossible for them to see the other party's every move. The less they could see, the more inaccurate their deduction would be. The omniscient mirror reflected everything in front of him, clear and flawless. This way, the deduction would be more accurate. He gradually entered a good state and ignored the mundane matters, completely immersing himself in his own cultivation. However, His cultivation was interrupted by an invitation. It was an invitation from the Verdant Cloud brothel, but it was not from Mo Qingyu. It was from Miss Ji Xueqing. He sat in the living room and looked at the invitation, thinking about Yang Zhongwen, who came to report about Miss Yu Qing yesterday. After the investigation by the Secret Guardians Hall, they did not find anything strange about Miss Yu Qing. One of the top courtesans of the Verdant Cloud brothel, she did not know martial arts, was pure and arrogant, and refused to meet vulgar people. She only met some regular customers, and it was almost impossible for strangers to meet her. Through investigation, the Secret Guardians Hall found all of Miss Yu Qing's customers, and his name was on the list. Chu Li looked at the list and found that Mo Qingyu had done it flawlessly without any flaws. It seemed that senior sister Mo could not be underestimated. She was shrewd and powerful, and it was not easy to hide from the Secret Guardians Hall. The reputation of the Amethyst Mountain was not just for show. Her ethereal heavenly heart technique might be a technique to stabilize one's state of mind. She could always maintain a state of mind and not be disturbed by emotions, so she could always remain calm and intelligent. She would not make mistakes, and when she fought, her emotions would not be affected, and her judgment would not be affected. He had never seen Miss Ji Xueqing before, so how could she give him an invitation? It was a great honor for a lady from the Verdant Cloud brothel to send an invitation. There was almost no one who did not go, or else he would not be able to maintain his elegant demeanor. No man would let go of such an opportunity. Chu Li shook his head and laughed, but he did not plan to attend the banquet. Chief Zhu's voice came from outside. "Head Chief, there's another invitation." Chu Li said, "Send it in." Chief Zhu opened the door and closed fist saluted at Ling Qiu and Ling Qing, who were practicing swordsmanship. Chu Li glanced at it and nodded thoughtfully. "That was right," Chief Zhu said. "It's best not to reject Crown Prince Shi's invitation. If we want to redeem Miss Yu Qing, we can't offend Crown Prince Shi. Crown Prince Shi has deep connections in Luoyang. We can't afford to be careless." Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Chief Zhu said, "Head Chief, think about it. There are so many high-ranking officials and nobles who want to spend their time at Verdant Cloud brothel, but there are only so many ladies at Verdant Cloud brothel. It's not enough at all. It depends on each person's reputation, and Imperial Crown Prince Shi's accommodation is a favor." Chu Li nodded and smiled. "Old? You've improved a lot." Chief Zhu smiled embarrassedly and said, "I was just thinking blindly. I know you can think of this. That's not necessarily true. Even a wise man would make a mistake sometimes. Moreover, I'm not a wise man." "You're right. I really have to attend the banquet tonight," Chu Li said. Chief Zhu hurriedly said, "Then should we prepare guards and attire?" "There's no need for that. I'll go by myself." Chu Li shook his head. "Yes." Chief Zhu agreed and tactfully excused himself. Chu Li held the two invitations and chuckled. Imperial Crown Prince Shi was also a powerful person. He wanted to open the new moon brothel in the fairies' capital because of this. There were many smart people in the world, and Imperial Crown Prince Shi was one of them. Verdant Cloud brothel was owned by Prince Bao in name, but Imperial Crown Prince Shi was probably the real owner behind the scenes. Chu Li handed over the invitations. Before the protector could go in to report, Ling Shaoxi and Ling Shoshan came out of the main door and greeted him with a closed-fist salute. Chu Li was surprised. He returned the greeting with a closed-fist salute. "Head Chief Chu, let's talk in the courtyard." "Please." Ling Shaoxi spoke calmly and coldly. Even when he was being polite, he gave off a sense of arrogance. Chu Li smiled and nodded. He entered Ji Shui courtyard with the two of them. Miss Ji Shui courtyard was a pure and bright beauty. She was only slightly inferior to Xiao Shi, but she was already a rare beauty in the world. Mo Qingyu was pure and beautiful. She had a gentle temperament and a mysterious aura around her. Ji Shui courtyard was even brighter, making people feel closer to her. The four of them were sitting at a square table. Ji Shui Su held a pot in her hand and filled the white jade cups for the three of them. She also filled a cup for herself. Leng Shoshan laughed. Come, head Chief Chu. I've heard so much about you. I'll drink first to show my respect. He drained his cup in one gulp. Chu Li smiled and drained his cup as well. He did not need to look into Leng Shoshan's mind to know what was going on. It was none other than Ling Shoujiang's death. Yang Zhongwen had reported to him. As expected, the magistrate could not solve the case and could only hand it over to the secret guardian's hall. Head Chief Chu likes Miss Xueqing? Ling Shoshan smiled. Chu Li shook his head. I'm just trying to relieve my boredom. I don't have any other intentions. You don't want to redeem Miss Xueqing? Leng Shoshan chuckled. From what I know, Head Chief Chu has already redeemed the two ladies for someone else. Ninth brother's heart is aching for them. He looked at Ling Shaoxi as he spoke. Ling Shaoxi said, every single one of the girls was carefully selected and trained. We spent a lot of effort to ensure that their temperament and nature would not be tainted by the world, so that they would remain pure and kind. I feel reluctant to let go of every single one of them. Ninth brother protected these ladies very well. He took great care of them. He was worried that they would marry the wrong people. Leng Shoshan shook his head. These ladies have good eyes. They can pick good men. Chu Li smiled. Those two friends of mine are worthy of being entrusted with their lives. Zhu Tianhua is fine. As for Han Fei, Leng Shaoxi shook his head. Chu Li smiled. Han Fei is passionate, but he won't abandon you. Don't worry, Imperial Crown Prince Shi. I hope so. Leng Shaoxi nodded. Sigh. Leng Shoshan suddenly sighed and put down his white jade cup. Chu Li said to himself, here it comes. He smiled at him. Leng Shoshan shook his head. These days my father doesn't smile anymore. The atmosphere in the house is very depressing. I don't even want to go back. How can I not be sad when I have to send off my son? Chu Li said. My condolences, Your Royal Highness. I'll visit again another day. My father only has one thought in his mind now, and that is to avenge my fifth brother. Leng Shoshan sighed. Knowing that the secret guardian's hall has accepted the case, father sighed in relief. That's because father has always admired you, Head Chief Chu. He said that you are extremely intelligent, and with your help, you will definitely find the murderer for fifth brother. Chu Li said, Prince Bao, you flatter me. I'm really ashamed. The case was accepted by the secret guardian's hall, but it wasn't handed over to me. My father doesn't trust anyone else. Leng Shoshan sighed. Chapter 680. Leng Shoshan had an ugly expression on his face. He nodded slowly and sighed. Yes, after such a long delay, even the dumbest murderer would have disappeared without a trace. In the end, it's the governor's incompetence that caused him to miss a golden opportunity. Chu Li did not respond. Leng Shoshan could say this, but he could not. As the centurion of the secret guardian's hall, he had a high position. If his words were to spread, it would affect the governor greatly. It would be strange if the governor could break through such an intricate assassination. Ling Shaoxi asked, Can't Head Chief Chu take over? Chu Li shook his head. Imperial princes, Mei Yi Courtyard has already taken over this case. If we interfere, we'll be taking credit for it. In the secret guardian's hall, credit is everything. Blocking someone's path to wealth is like killing their parent. Doing a good deed will get them money, martial arts, treasured swords, and even other rare treasures. If we take their credit, it'll be a life and death feud. Sigh. It's already been 5 days, and there's still no progress in the secret guardian's hall. I'm afraid there's no hope. Leng Shoshan shook his head and finished his drink. Father's mood is getting worse. I think he can't hold it in any longer. Head Chief Chu, this won't become an unsolved case, right? Leng Shaoxi asked. Chu Li looked at him and smiled bitterly. He shook his head without saying a word. Ling Shoshan and Ling Shaoxi immediately understood that they were right. Is there no other way? Ling Shoshan asked unwillingly. Chu Li said, we can only rely on Mei Yi Courtyard's ability. They're the most elite in the residence, there might be hope. However, imperial princes don't have too much hope. 10 days. The clues that can be found have already been found. The ones that can't be found will never be found, so… He shook his head and stopped talking. Ling Shoshan said hatefully, are we just going to let the murderer roam free? My fifth brother died for nothing. Ling Shaoxi said, the governor is an idiot. I think the secret guardian's hall doesn't live up to its name. Chu Li smiled bitterly. Imperial Prince, sure, there's a limit to a person's strength. How can everything go smoothly in this world? Everyone wants to catch the murderer, but the murderer is one step ahead. It's just like martial arts. If you meet someone stronger than you can only blame your bad luck. Head Chief Chu, I think if you take action, you'll definitely be able to find the murderer. Ling Shaoxi said, up until now, none of the cases that you've handled have not been solved. Why didn't you take over this case? Chu Li said, after all, I've just arrived here. I'm a junior in the Secret Guardians Hall, so it's not good for me to be in the limelight. Moreover, the Mei Yi Courtyard is indeed full of elites. I might not have been able to defeat them even if I fought them, so I didn't manage to snatch it away. It's rare to see such a contribution. Prince Bao's power was immense, and he was deeply trusted by the emperor. If he could gain Prince Bao's gratitude, there would be countless benefits in the future. He was an example. There were things that other people could not do, such as the redemption of the Verdant Cloud Brothel's lady. Princeton could definitely do it, and he could do it. If Father personally asked to hand the case over to the Mei Air Courtyard, would that work? Ling Shoshan asked. Chu Li smiled bitterly. Based on Prince Bao's reputation, since he has spoken, the Secret Guardians Hall will obey. Ling Shoshan sighed. I know, Head Chief, you will still become enemies with Mei Yi Courtyard. Chu Li did not say anything. Instead, he picked up the white jade cup and drained it in one gulp. But I really have no other choice. Ling Shoshan said, seeing Father getting older day by day as his son, I have no other ability. I can only sacrifice my reputation to beg you, Head Chief. Ling Shaoxi said, Head Chief Chu, if you can help, please help. Chu Li smiled bitterly. To be honest with the two imperial princes, when this case came out, I decided not to touch it. When it was handed over to the Secret Guardians Hall, the Mei Air Courtyard did not fight for it. It was obvious that it was dangerous. Is there anything that you're afraid of, Head Chief Chu? Ling Shaoxi asked. Chu Li shook his head. I have enemies everywhere. I really don't want to make any more enemies, or else it would be a great sin to implicate the imperial residence of Prince and… Ling Shoshan frowned. You're saying that the person who tried to assassinate my fifth brother is a powerful person? Chu Li said, it's purely an intuition, it's hard to say. The two of them nodded. Chu Li said, I owe His Royal Highness 2 favors. I've been looking for a chance to return them, but this time, it's really not a good time to return the favor. If something goes wrong, I might even lose my life. I wouldn't dare to act recklessly. It's that dangerous? Ling Shoshan asked. Chu Li said slowly, if not, why wouldn't I help His Royal Highness? Rather let His Royal Highness blame me for being cold-hearted? The two of them remained silent. Sigh, looks like my fifth brother's life is like this. I don't know what my father will do. It's really not good to have this depressed feeling in his heart. Ling Shoshan sighed helplessly and drank another cup. Ling Shaoxi looked at Chu Li. He did not say anything. Chu Li had already said this much. If they still forced him to help, it would be too much. Even if they were imperial princes, Chu Li would not listen to them. After a few cups, the three of them changed the topic and talked about the martial arts world. Chu Li talked and laughed, until the banquet was about to end. He finally said, how about this? I can personally help you with a little bit of my strength. The two of them perked up and quickly looked at him. Chu Li said, Imperial Prince Shan, make a list of Imperial Prince Zhang's good friends, then list the people he has been in contact with recently, then invite the first 6 people to the banquet. 6. Leng Shoshan quickly nodded. All right, I'll invite them tomorrow. Chu Li said, after they come to the banquet, I'll hide at the side, then I'll ask Miss Ji Shui to send you a message. All right. Leng Shoshan quickly said, can you find out just like that? Chu Li shook his head. I can only try and see if I'm lucky, logically speaking, it's someone I know. Thank you, Head Chief Chu. Leng Shoshan closed fist saluted. Chu Li said, I can only help Imperial Prince Shan and Shirzi investigate, consider it my personal help, please keep it a secret. No problem. The two of them nodded. On the evening of the second day, when the sky was just turning dark, Chu Li had already arrived at the Verdant Cloud brothel. He was directly led by the protector to Ji Shui courtyard. Ji Shui personally welcomed him and gracefully brought him to the east wing. It was an empty room, no one usually stayed there, it was very clean, it was obvious that it was just tidied up today. Ji Shui tactfully did not disturb him, and immediately left. Chu Li sat cross-legged on the bed. Just as he was about to cultivate the nature restoration manifestation, footsteps were heard. Ling Shaoxi and Ling Shoshan came over, closed-fist saluted, and said that everything was ready, then asked him what he wanted to say at the banquet later. Chu Li smiled. Imperial princes, you can do as you please, say whatever you want to say, there's no need to do it deliberately. There's no need to ask some questions? Ling Shoshan asked. Chu Li shook his head. This will only make people suspicious, of course, there's no harm in asking, it's up to you. That's good, then I'm not worried. Ling Shoshan said. Ling Shaoxi said, what can you tell? Chu Li smiled. If there's a problem, I'll be able to sense it. I hope we didn't waste our efforts, Ling Shaoxi said. If the 6 people tonight can't do, we'll invite another 6 tomorrow. Chu Li nodded. That's what I was thinking. Ling Shoshan gritted his teeth and scoffed. We must catch that guy, 5th brother cannot die in vain. Chapter 681. When the lanterns were lit, Ling Shaoxi and Ling Shoshan's banquet began. 6 young men were invited. The 6 of them looked different, some were good-looking while others were average. Their personalities were different too, but their status was similar. They were all young and promising, not rich kids who relied on their families. Ling Shoshan was very friendly. He said that his 5th brother's friends were his friends too. If they had any difficulties in the future, he would help them without hesitation. The 6 of them were very friendly to him, then they talked about Ling Shoujiang's past. They all sighed, saying that the heavens were jealous of the talented, good people did not live long. It made them feel helpless and respectful. They were also very angry at Ling Shoujiang's murderer, but they could not do anything. Fairies Capital's governor and the Secret Guardians Hall were investigating, but there were no results. It was obvious that they would not be able to catch the murderer. Ling Shoshan ordered a few bottles of good wine and drank to his heart's content. Under his lead, everyone started to drink. The more they drank, the more they talked, and the more they drank. Ling Shaoxi left quickly. He had a strong personality and was a man of few words. He was surrounded by a serious aura that made it difficult for people to relax. Once he left, the atmosphere at the table suddenly became relaxed. Coupled with Snow Ji's sweet smile, the crowd became more lively. Ling Shoshan would occasionally reply and ask about his 5th brother. Snow Ji drank 2 cups of wine and apologized with a smile. She then left the house to wash up. When she returned, she took the opportunity to help Ling Shoshan up the mountain to give him a piece of paper that had been folded into a small square. Ling Shoshan opened it in his sleeve when no one was paying attention. He glanced at it and immediately put it back in his sleeve. He continued to drink with the crowd and casually asked, "Does anyone know about Zhu Wu?" Everyone was stunned and shook their heads in confusion. Sigh. Ling Shoshan shook his head. I heard that this person has a grudge against fifth brother. I don't know if it's true or if he was the one who did it. Who's Zhu Wu? The crowd was still confused. Leng Shoshan sighed. Forget it, let's not talk about him. He's spoiling everyone's mood. Come, let's drink. He did not manage to get the others drunk, but he got drunk first. When everyone saw him lying down, they also took their leave and quickly dispersed. Leng Shoshan sat up after they left. He channeled his energy a few times and looked at Chu Li with clear eyes. Leng Xiaoxi came over too. The two of them stared at Chu Li. Head chief, how is it? Leng Xiaoxi asked. Leng Shoshan stared at Chu Li nervously. Chu Li nodded. I have some clues. Give me 2 days, I will personally capture the person and hand him over to Imperial Crown Prince Shan. Did you really find a clue? Leng Shoshan hurriedly asked. Chu Li smiled. My luck isn't bad. Maybe it's the spirit of Imperial Crown Prince Jiang helping me in heaven. I'll make a move immediately. Imperial Crown Princes, please do what you need to do. Understood. The two nodded. Chu Li gave a fist salute and left. After watching Chu Li disappear, the two returned to the table and sat down. Head Chief Chu didn't do anything, right? How do you know who the murderer is? Leng Shoshan said in disbelief. You're not just comforting me, are you? Leng Xiaoxi said. Doesn't look like it. Leng Shoshan sighed. But this is too strange. Chu Li is very capable, even Uncle Bao admires him. He must have some strange tricks up his sleeves, or else he wouldn't have such a reputation. Leng Xiaoxi said, let's just wait and see. It was originally a hopeless situation, but if he really did find it, it would be a miracle. Sigh. I hope we can catch the murderer. Leng Shoshan shook his head. If we don't catch him, my father will probably go crazy. I don't even dare to talk to him now. His eyes look like he wants to kill. If I say something wrong, he'll kill me. Uncle Bao used to be a decisive person, but as he grew older, he gradually stopped fighting. Leng Xiaoxi said, if other people really think that Uncle Bao is old, then they're very wrong. Fifth brother is really unlucky. Leng Shoshan sighed. He actually lost his life, really. We have to be careful too. Leng Xiaoxi said. You have to increase the number of protectors, we can't be careless. If fifth brother was a little more careful, he might not have been killed. Yes, I have 5 more protectors now. Leng Shoshan smiled. But the safest place is the Verdant Cloud brothel. Too bad we can't stay there forever. You can stay if you want to, Leng Xiaoxi said, if you're not afraid of Uncle Bao breaking your legs. His brother had just passed away, but not only was he not sad, he even went to the Verdant Cloud brothel to have fun. If Uncle Bao heard about this, it would be strange if he did not vent his anger on Leng Shoshan. I can't do it tonight, I need to rest. Leng Shoshan quickly said. I'll ask someone to clean up a room. Leng Xiaoxi said, send someone to inform the public house. 9th brother is still the best. Leng Shoshan closed fist saluted and smiled. The next morning, Leng Shoshan only woke up when it was almost time for his lunch. He slowly ate his lunch, then chatted with Snow Ji for a while, then followed Leng Xiaoxi to the martial arts field to practice. It was already dusk. Just as the two of them were about to end their practice, a protector suddenly came and said in a low voice, Imperial Crown Prince, Head Chief Chu is here again with a horse carriage. He said he wants the horse carriage to come in together. Leng Shoshan and Leng Xiaoxi looked at each other, their expressions changed. Leng Shoshan looked excited. Leng Xiaoxi said, let's not go out, just ask someone to let us in. Yes, yes. Leng Shoshan quickly realized. Leng Xiaoxi ordered. Soon, Chu Li drove a normal horse carriage to the martial arts field slowly. He jumped off the carriage, and closed fist saluted. Head Chief Chu, who's in this carriage? Leng Xiaoxi asked. Chu Li said, it's the murderer who assassinated Imperial Crown Prince Jiang, Zhu Wu. He's really the murderer who killed fifth brother? Leng Shoshan quickly asked. Chu Li said, I'll hand him over to Imperial Crown Prince Shan. As for how to interrogate him, I'm sure Imperial Crown Prince Shi will be able to find him. I won't interfere, just pretend I never interfered in this matter. Understood. Leng Shaoxi said, I'll find someone to interrogate him properly. Chu Li sighed, Imperial Crown Princes, in my opinion, it's enough to find the murderer, there's no need to dig any deeper. The two of them frowned, looked at him, and finally nodded slowly. They understood what Chu Li meant. The mastermind behind this must be someone powerful. Even if they were Imperial Crown Princes, they could not afford to offend him. Instead, they became more and more curious. Chu Li closed fists saluted. I'll go back first. I won't be accompanying the two Imperial Crown Princes. Stay here for a night, have a good rest. Leng Shaoxi said, or go to Miss Yuqing's, or stay at Ji Shui's, you can choose one. Chu Li shook his head and smiled. Imperial Crown Prince Shi, thank you for your kindness, but I really have to go back. Let Head Chief Chu go back, Leng Shoshan said. The head chief must be worried about the imperial residence of King, and Chu Li smiled. That's right. All right then, come back in a few days, Leng Shaoxi said. Let's first avenge fifth brother. Chu Li nodded, closed fist saluted and left. Leng Shoshan could not wait to open the door of the carriage, only to see a short and skinny middle-aged man lying inside. His eyes were shut tight, not moving at all, as if he was in a deep sleep. They knew that his acupuncture points were sealed. Once the acupuncture points were unsealed, he would wake up. I'll call someone over first, Leng Shaoxi said. Interrogate this Zhu Wu. Chapter 682. Leng Shaoxi quickly returned. Seeing that he was in a daze, he patted his shoulder. What are you thinking about? Brother Jiu, do you think we should find the real murderer? Leng Shoshan turned his head to look at him. According to Head Chief Chu, this person is the murderer who killed fifth brother, but he was probably ordered by someone else. Should we find the person? Yes, of course we have to. Leng Shaoxi nodded. Looking at Head Chief Chu's expression, I'm afraid he already knows. Leng Shoshan frowned and said, if he doesn't dare to investigate further, why? He is extremely daring. In this world, other than His Majesty and that person from the Great Lane Temple, I'm afraid there's no one he's afraid of. He's not afraid of masters, he's strong enough in martial arts, but he has a weakness too. Leng Shaoxi said, because he's a person who values friendship, just think about it. You're loyal to your friends. Leng Shoshan nodded. Such a person is worth befriending. Is he worried about Princess Xiao and the House of High Duke? Leng Shaoxi nodded. The public house is different from the past. It seems like there's nothing to be afraid of anymore. That might not be the case. I can't think of anything. Leng Shoshan finally shook his head. After all, he only liked to eat, drink, and have fun. He didn't get involved in national affairs. He only knew about the god's capital and didn't care much about other things. Soon, two middle-aged men in martial attire came over with gloomy faces. They cupped their fists and bowed. Take him away. Cripple his martial arts first, then slowly interrogate him. Leng Shaoxi stared at the two of them and said, just focus on the interrogation, don't panic if you get any information. If I knew how to kill you, you would be dead already. Yes, Crown Prince. The two middle-aged men replied in a deep voice. Leng Shaoxi said, don't rush, he's a top-notch assassin. He has a firm heart, he won't open his mouth so easily. You have to be patient, I don't have to teach you this, you should understand. Don't worry, Crown Prince. We will be careful. The round-faced young man cupped his fists and said, we will definitely reveal everything he knows. That's good. Leng Shaoxi waved his hand. The two of them carried Zhu Wu and left. Leng Shoshan laughed. Ninth brother, why are you keeping these people? They look so creepy and scary. We can't afford to lose these people. Leng Shaoxi shook his head. You don't want to go against others, but you have to prevent others from going against you. Without these people, The verdant cloud brothel would have been devoured a long time ago, and I would have died too. You're the crown prince, Ling Shoshan said. Ling Shaoxi scoffed. Fifth brother is also a crown prince. Ling Shoshan fell silent. The two of them came to Ji Shui's courtyard and listened to her playing the zither. Usually, they were full of praise for Ji Shui's zither skills. Every time, they would be intoxicated, but today, they were absent-minded. Snow Ji was dressed in a light green gown, looking simple and elegant. Her bright eyes flickered, and as she played the zither, her gaze shifted back and forth between the two of them. She didn't ask anything, for she knew that they were definitely involved in some dark matters, and it was best for her not to know. Usually, they would not come into contact with these things. This was to prevent them from being tainted by the darkness of the world. Only with a pure heart could their skills move people. However, they were all exceptionally intelligent women who had seen a lot of people. Their knowledge was also different from that of ordinary people, so they had some vague understanding of these things. When the song was over, she pressed the zither and looked at the two people. She was still absent-minded and did not know that the zither had stopped playing. She continued with the next song. 2 hours passed by unknowingly. She pressed the zither and sat down. She shook her hands and got up to pour a glass of wine for the two of them. The two of them glanced at the door from time to time. Just as they picked up their silver glasses, footsteps could be heard. They quickly put down their glasses and shouted, "Come in!" 2 gloomy middle-aged men walked into the courtyard and appeared outside the hall. Snow Ji, go out for a while. Ling Shaoxi turned his head and said. Snow Ji nodded lightly, curtsied, and left. Ling Shaoxi glanced at the two of them. The round-faced middle-aged man looked left and right, then turned around and closed the door. He then returned to Ling Shaoxi and Ling Shoshan. Speak, Ling Shaoxi said. When he saw the round-faced middle-aged man's actions, he knew that he had found out something important. Zhu Wu's confession was very straightforward. He knew that he was going to die, so he only asked for a quick death. That's why he told us everything he knows. We believe that it's true. The square-faced middle-aged man said in a low voice. Ling Shaoxi said, Who is it? The person who ordered him is the Deputy General of King Ping of the Western Border, Sun Zhanhe. The square-faced middle-aged man said. King Ping? Ling Shaoxi and Ling Shoshan's expressions changed. The square-faced middle-aged man nodded, but his face was still gloomy. The round-faced middle-aged man sighed. There's someone in the fairy's capital who helped. It's the military minister counselor, Gu Qi. Ling Shaoxi and Ling Shoshan's expressions changed again. The square-faced middle-aged man said, This should be true. Looking at the two imperial princes, the round-faced middle-aged man sighed again. After he succeeded, he immediately escaped. He didn't go to the western border, but to the Ji public house's Ji River Valley. He was captured in the Ji River Valley. What do you mean? Ling Shoshan quickly asked, Could it be that the Ji public house is involved? The square-faced middle-aged man said, Zhu Wu can't be sure either. Ling Shaoxi and Ling Shoshan looked at each other, their expressions ugly. Rebellion. Why did Zhu Wu kill my fifth brother? Ling Shoshan quickly asked. The square-faced middle-aged man said, He was following orders. He doesn't know anything else. That damn guy. Ling Shoshan slammed the table angrily. I'll definitely kill him. Ling Shaoxi asked, How did he know about fifth brother's whereabouts? A scribe passed the information to him. The square-faced middle-aged man said, He wasn't bribed. It might be the work of the minister counselor, Gu Qi. Damn it. Damn it. Ling Shoshan gritted his teeth. Just thinking about it made his heart turn cold. The scribe was bribed, their whereabouts were known, and they could kill him if they wanted to. He was no different from fifth brother. His life could be taken at any time. Ling Shaoxi turned his head and asked, Should we continue investigating? Ling Shoshan said, Ninth brother, what do you think? This is a big problem. Leng Xiaoxi frowned. I just don't know why fifth brother was assassinated. He glanced at Ling Shoshan. Ling Shoshan frowned. Ninth brother, you suspect that fifth brother is also involved? It's fine if fifth brother is involved, I'm just afraid that Uncle Kong. Ling Xiaoxi shook his head. No. Ling Shoshan quickly said. Ling Xiaoxi said, anyway, we have to keep this to ourselves. Zhu Wu must be secretly dealt with, and it has to be done in the Ji River Valley. He glanced at the two gloomy middle-aged men. I don't need to say more about the severity of this matter. The two middle-aged men closed-fist saluted. Watch your mouth. From today onwards, you are not allowed to leave the residence, and you are not allowed to meet outsiders. I won't kill you, but I'm afraid that someone else will. Ling Xiaoxi said in a low voice, I will increase the number of protectors. Yes, Imperial Crown Prince. The two of them said in a low voice. They knew that this was not a trivial matter. If they were not careful, their entire family would be exterminated. Even the descendants of the royal family would not be spared. Ling Xiaoxi remained silent. He was thinking about what he had missed out. Ling Shoshan frowned. Chapter 683. We owe head chief Chu too much this time. Ling Xiaoxi shook his head. Ling Shoshan asked, he knows everything? It's hard to say. Ling Xiaoxi looked at the two middle-aged men. The round-faced middle-aged man said, Zhu Wu didn't know how he was captured. He fainted, he didn't see the person who captured him, and no one asked him anything. It's hard to say that he doesn't know. Ling Xiaoxi shook his head. He's in the secret guardians hall, he's more well-informed than we are. Furthermore, he's very capable. Never mind, let's put this aside for now and stop investigating. Ling Shoshan said hatefully, does that mean fifth brother died for nothing, ninth brother? Ling Xiaoxi looked at his stubborn expression. Then there's only one way, let Uncle Kong handle this. He was hesitant, he couldn't be sure if Prince Kong was involved in this. Logically speaking, if Prince Kong was involved, he should be able to protect fifth brother. However, it could be a warning to Prince Kong, threatening him not to do anything rash. In short, this matter was complicated and unpredictable. It was not advisable to delve too deeply into it and cause trouble for oneself. Fifth brother's death was the best warning. Ling Shoshan sighed. Then I'll talk to father. You talk to Uncle Kong, I'll talk to father too. They're all schemers, Ling Xiaoxi said. We're still too young. All right. Ling Shoshan nodded. Ling Xiaoxi looked at the two middle-aged men. You two go, be careful. Don't worry, Imperial Crown Prince. The two closed-fist saluted and left the house. Ling Xiaoxi rubbed his eyebrows. He felt that this short moment of brainstorming was more than a year. We'll go back first and let father decide, Ling Xiaoxi said. If they don't make a move, we'll do it ourselves. Yes, Ling Shoshan said. Should we kill Zhu Wu first? We must kill him, but we'll have to think about how to kill him, Ling Xiaoxi said. We'll ask father for their opinion. All right. Ling Shoshan nodded. Be careful on the road, Ling Xiaoxi reminded. Ling Shoshan closed-fist saluted and left in big strides. Ling Xiaoxi shouted, Snow Ji. Snow Ji gracefully entered the house. Ling Xiaoxi said, Go and tell Chief Hua to send Miss Yuqing's contract to head Chief Chu. Do it quietly, don't let anyone find out. Snow Ji responded and asked in surprise, Sister Yuqing is going to redeem herself? Ling Xiaoxi nodded. It's still head Chief Chu? Snow Ji pursed her lips and smiled. Head Chief Chu has already redeemed 3 of our sisters. Ling Xiaoxi smiled. Do you want to redeem yourself? He was in a good mood when he was with these pure girls. Of course I want to, Snow Ji said with a smile. But I haven't found anyone I like. What should I do? Then let's wait. Ling Xiaoxi said, There will be. Snow Ji secretly rolled her eyes at him. Acting dumb. Ling Xiaoxi brought along a few protectors and carefully returned to Prince Bao's imperial residence. When he arrived at the martial arts field in the backyard, he saw his father, Prince Bao, slowly practicing a set of fist technique. Ling Shaoxi waved his hand. The surrounding maids and guards all retreated. The huge back garden was empty, and only the chirping of birds could be heard. On the surface of the lake not far away, a few sparkling golden fish leaped out and fell back, splashing water everywhere. "What's the matter?" Prince Bao was dressed in a bright yellow robe. His expression was solemn and he was not angry. "Father, I've encountered a difficult matter," Ling Shaoxi said. "Tell me about it." Prince Bao glanced at him indifferently and said casually. Ling Shaoxi looked around again. Prince Bao scoffed, "Sneaky. Luo Qi, all of you leave too?" "Yes." Someone in the dark replied, then there was no more movement. Ling Shaoxi was finally relieved. He told his father what happened in a low voice. Prince Bao's brows furrowed even tighter. He glared at him. Ling Shaoxi's face was cold in front of others, but he was relaxed in front of his father. He said in a low voice, "I regret this too. But since it has come to this, I can't stay out of it. I can only ask for your opinion, father." "You're worried that your fourth uncle is involved?" Prince Bao saw through his thoughts. Ling Shaoxi nodded lightly. Prince Bao did not say anything. He slowly practiced his fist technique. In the empty backyard there was suddenly a clear cry. It was a golden eagle that swooped down and landed on the octagonal pagoda. It stood on top of the pagoda and looked majestic. Ling Shaoxi floated to the top of the pagoda and took the bamboo tube from the golden eagle's leg. He then patted the golden eagle's wings and floated back to Prince Bao's side. He handed the bamboo tube to him. Prince Bao kept his fist technique and opened the bamboo tube to take a look. He shook his head and did not say anything. The golden eagle spread its wings and flew. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared into the sky. "Father, I'm worried about King Ping." Ling Shaoxi sighed. "His military power is too heavy. Everyone knows that the emperor will reduce his power. He might not be willing. At that time, it will be chaos. The matter of reducing King Ping's military power should be kept as far away as possible." Prince Bao said in a low voice, "Whoever touches it will die. As for this matter, let's leave it to your fourth uncle. He will most likely tolerate it." Prince Bao said. "Uncle Kong can tolerate it?" Ling Shaoxi was surprised. He knew that he was a shrewd person and could control his emotions well. However, this matter could not be tolerated no matter what. His son was killed. This kind of pain was 100 or 1,000 times more painful than the death of his parents. Who could tolerate it? Your fourth uncle's forte is his forbearance. Prince Bao scoffed. He can tolerate what others can't. However, this revenge will be avenged sooner or later. It depends on how it is done. We don't have to worry about it anyway. Then what should we do with Zhu Wu? Ling Shaoxi asked. We have to be very careful. Leave it to your fourth uncle. Let him think of a way. You have to get yourself out of this. Prince Bao scoffed. Today it was Ling Shoujiang. Tomorrow it might be Ling Shoushan or Ling Shaoxi. Such a daring assassination, if they did not retaliate fiercely and make the enemy pay a huge price, the life of an imperial crown prince would be too cheap. Prince Bao's face did not change, but his heart was boiling with anger. Father, this head chief Chu is indeed worthy of your praise. He is indeed a genius, Ling Shaoxi said. If it was someone else, who would be able to find the murderer? It was a flawless assassination, and it was coordinated by many parties. There were no flaws. Prince Bao replied with and started practicing his fist technique again. I've always been curious. How did he find out? Ling Shaoxi said. He could find Zhu Wu just by listening to their conversation? Among the 6 people he invited, there was the minister-counselor from the Ministry of War, Gu Qi. This person looks ordinary, he is easily overlooked. How did fifth brother become friends with him? Ling Shoujiang was just a playboy. He only knew how to play and play. He almost never participated in the affairs of the imperial court. Logically speaking, he would be looked down upon by the people in the imperial court. It was impossible for Ling Shoujiang to become friends with him. However, they were friends. That was why Prince Bao suspected that Ling Shoujiang was involved. "We'll know once we investigate," Prince Bao said. "But be careful, don't get found out. This case, should we report this to the emperor?" Ling Shaoxi asked. Prince Bao shook his head. "It's best to pretend that you don't know." "Yes," Ling Shaoxi said. "Send an invitation to Chu Li. Invite him to the residence," Prince Bao said. Ling Shaoxi was shocked. Prince Bao said, "Such a person, you should get closer to him." Chapter 684. P.S. Accumulated fatigue. I've been trying to get rid of it, but I can't. I really can't write any more today. I'm very sorry for publishing it late. Chu Li was cultivating the nature restoration manifestation in the imperial residence of King An. The more he cultivated, the more he felt it was amazing. The more he cultivated the nature restoration manifestation, the more he felt his mind was moving. He felt like he was one with heaven and earth. It was as if he could see every movement around him. Before the wind blew, he could predict it. Before the rain fell, he could predict the rain. He didn't know if he would be able to predict everything if he continued to train like this. He would be like a god who knew everything. Prince Bao's invitation interrupted his cultivation. He sat on the bed in his bedroom. The bright sunlight illuminated the room. Ling Qiu and Ling Qing's cries came from outside. The two ladies were sparring. Their swords were sharp. Although they were using wooden swords, it was still painful to be stabbed. No one was giving in. Holding the invitation, Chu Li frowned. When he first heard about Ling Shoujiang's assassination, he had a bad feeling. He felt that it was not as simple as it seemed. His instinct told him to stay away from the case. Although his martial arts was strong, he was not invincible. Not to mention the enlightened masters, there were many grandmasters who could defeat him. He was not afraid, but if he really harmed Xiao Shi and the House of High Duke, it would be a huge sin. Ling Shaoxi and Ling Shoshan personally came to beg him. He did not want to agree at first, but half of it was because of Prince Bao's face. Also, he had a good impression of Ling Shaoxi. The ladies from the Verdant Cloud brothel did not suffer under his hands. So, he did them a favor and did not let the secret guardians hall get involved. This was also for the lives of Dong Qifei and the others. Even if the secret guardians were the emperor's closest subordinates and their identity made people afraid to attack them, it was not that difficult to kill them. After he caught Zhu Wu, he realized that he had underestimated the terror of this matter. It involved the Royal Highness's rebellion, which meant that it was close to death. If he got even a little closer, he would end up in a situation where he would die. Even if he could escape with his martial arts, Chu Li's identity would be ruined. From then on, he would have to change his name and could not live openly in the fairies' capital. When Prince Bao's invitation arrived, it meant that they had gotten a confession and told Prince Bao. Chu Li believed that Prince Bao would not meddle in this matter. After so many years, Prince Bao's ability to conceal his strength and bide his time was extremely profound. Naturally, he would hide as far away as he could from this kind of thing. How could he possibly come forward? One wrong move and the imperial residence would end up being raided. Thinking of this, he put down the invitation and decided to attend the banquet. The imperial residence of Prince Bao was majestic, far surpassing King An's imperial residence. The land it occupied was about twice the size of King An's imperial residence. The corridors could be ridden by horses, and the lakes could be sailed by boats. They sat in a gazebo on the lake in the backyard, accompanied by Prince Bao and Ling Shaoxi. Other than the three of them, there were no other guards in the back garden. All the secret guards had retreated. Head Chief Chu, thank you so much. Without your help, we wouldn't have been able to find the culprit. Ling Shaoxi picked up the white jade cup and finished it in one gulp. Chu Li smiled. You don't have to be so courteous, Imperial Crown Prince. I've already received the contract, but Imperial Crown Prince really misunderstood. Miss Yu Qing is such a beauty, yet the head chief wants to push her away? Ling Shaoxi asked. Chu Li sighed. One more person means one more worry. With my current situation, I shouldn't involve Miss Yu Qing. She's living well in the verdant cloud brothel. I can only trouble Imperial Crown Prince to take care of her. Head Chief, do you think it's dangerous? Ling Shaoxi frowned. Chu Li nodded. Both of you must be careful of assassinations. That Minister Counselor Gu isn't a kind person. Once he realizes that you might have noticed something, I'm afraid he'll make a move. After the incident with Ling Shoujiang, the Imperial Crown Prince's protectors must have increased. There was no need for him to say anything. Since they were here as guests, there was no harm in casually mentioning it. Ling Shaoxi scoffed. These people are so daring. What do you think, Your Royal Highness? Chu Li looked at Prince Bao, who had been silent all this while. Who should be the mastermind behind this? Prince Bao shook his head. I can't say for sure, and I don't want to know either. It's better to keep a distance. I'm just afraid that Your Royal Highness won't be able to hide even if you want to, Chu Li said. I'm sure Your Royal Highness already has a plan. Prince Bao said, Chu Li, you should understand that King Ping's incident is a knot in the Emperor's heart. It's related to the fight for the throne. If you're not careful, you'll be punished with the extermination of your entire family. Chu Li nodded. I understand. He was not afraid, but the High Duke's public house and King An's imperial residence could not be unafraid. Prince Bao said, I've watched King Ping grow up. I know him very well. He's bold and has always been straightforward with the Emperor. He's always said what's on his mind. He's always been disdainful of conspiracies. Chu Li said, Your Royal Highness, you don't think it's King Ping this time. But people change, Prince Bao said. Especially when the throne is in front of us. No one can say for sure. Chu Li frowned. If it's not King Ping, who can persuade High Duke Ji? Ling Shaoxi said, If it's up to me, I'll just tell the Emperor and see what he's going to do. Prince Bao stared at him but did not say anything. Chu Li shook his head. It's hard to predict a person's heart. How would the Emperor know that you're sincere? Moreover, Your Royal Highness's identity is too sensitive. The Emperor will think that you have ulterior motives. Ling Shaoxi scoffed. So troublesome. He opened the verdant cloud brothel firstly for fun, secondly to make friends, and thirdly to find out some secret information to assist his father in his work. However, these were not that tiring. With Prince Bao as his father, everything had been smooth sailing. He had spent too much time and effort on this matter. He felt very weak and powerless, which was an extremely uncomfortable feeling. As the three of them were talking, an old servant came from afar. He was tall and sturdy with white eyebrows and beard. He came closer and bowed. Master, Imperial Crown Prince Shan was attacked by an assassin last night. Attacked by an assassin? Ling Shaoxi frowned. What about him? Imperial Crown Prince Shan is fine. Thanks to the tight security, the old man said in a low voice. I heard that one of the protectors died. The assassin is very powerful and has already escaped. Ling Shaoxi turned to look at Prince Bao. Father, could it be? Prince Bao looked at Chu Li. I think this case will be handed over to the Secret Guardians Hall. Chu Li frowned and nodded. Ling Shaoxi laughed coldly. How dare you? Chu Li said, It's best that the Imperial Crown Prince doesn't leave the residence for now. Yes, he will stay in the Imperial residence for a while. Prince Bao said in a low voice. Father, Ling Shaoxi scoffed. They want to silence us. Are we just going to wait here and not retaliate? We can't be impatient. What if it wasn't them? Prince Bao said in a low voice. Ling Shaoxi frowned. He thought for a while but did not say anything. Prince Bao said, Truly, if this case is handed over to the Secret Guardians Hall, help investigate it. Yes, Your Royal Highness. Chuli finally closed fist, saluted, and agreed. Prince Bao held the pot and filled his jade cup. I know it's hard for you, but I can't rest easy if this is handed over to the other people in the Secret Guardians Hall. Chuli said, I will try my best. Chapter 685. Chuli, I won't let you fight alone. If you need help, just let me know. Prince Bao said in a low voice. Thank you, Your Royal Highness. Chuli nodded. Is King Ping in charge of the West Frontier Army now? King Ping is the chief regent and the marshal, Prince Bao said. An army of 100,000 with high status and power. Who would be willing to let go? Does the Emperor not have a foolproof plan? Chuli shook his head. The Emperor is a wise man. How could he end up like this? My brother is wise to others, but he's a mess when it comes to family matters. Otherwise, he wouldn't have ended up like this. Prince Bao sighed. He values family too much, so it's inevitable that he's indecisive. Chuli nodded slowly. From the looks of it, he had to be more careful when killing Kingen. He could not simply do it or the Emperor would go crazy. An enlightened master who went crazy was unimaginably scary, but he would not let the murderer escape. He would not be able to escape his pursuit. Prince Bao said, among the princes, King Ping is the most similar to the Emperor. Chuli raised his eyebrows. From what I know, King Jing seems to have a higher chance of succeeding the throne. King Jing is more intelligent. He's smart and capable in handling affairs. He's not inferior to the Emperor. Prince Bao said, the chancellors are in awe of King Jing's talent and character. It can be said that he has the loyalty of the people. King Ping's temperament is more like the Emperor's. King Jing is not like the Emperor. Chuli nodded slowly. If that was the case, he would be conflicted on who to choose. One was closer and wanted to succeed the throne, while the other was more suitable. He was a prince that the chancellors respected. If he succeeded the throne, the imperial court would be stable. Prince Bao said, King Ping is stubborn and not good at governance. However, he's talented in commanding troops and fighting wars. He went to the west frontier first. He rose from a small centurion to a marshal without relying on his influence as a prince. He led an army of 100,000. He's indeed a genius. Chuli sighed. It's a disaster and not a blessing. That's right. Once King Jing succeeds the throne, how will he deal with his brother? King Ping's prestige in the army is unparalleled. He can command the army with just a word. Will King Jing sleep well? Chuli said, once King Jing becomes the Emperor, won't he become an enlightened master? The Emperor is not the only enlightened master, Prince Bao said calmly. Chuli nodded slowly. If King Ping and the Tempest Temple formed an alliance, it did not matter who succeeded the throne. How could they not get rid of such a real threat? Prince Bao said, the Emperor is troubled by this. One has unparalleled prestige in the military, while the other has unparalleled prestige among the courtiers. Whichever one of them succeeds the throne, the other will not have a good ending. This is the most painful thing for the Emperor. He is in a dilemma, unable to make up his mind. Didn't the Emperor think of this back then? Chuli frowned. As the Emperor, he had to be able to foresee things. He shouldn't allow things to develop like this. His Majesty is soft-hearted. Initially, he wanted to remove King Ping's military power, but every time King Ping submitted a memorial to the Emperor, he immediately changed his mind. Prince Bao shook his head and sighed. King Ping's temper is too similar to the Emperor's. He will argue with the Emperor the moment they meet. Both father and son can quarrel endlessly, but the Emperor likes King Ping the most. Chuli picked up the white jade cup and took a sip. It was said that even an upright official would find it difficult to resolve family matters. Moreover, it was mixed with the matters of the imperial court, so it was not appropriate to get involved. Chu Li returned to King An's imperial residence. As soon as he entered the main door, Chief Zhu welcomed him. Head Chief, your subordinates are waiting. Chu Li arrived at the main hall and saw Dong Qifei pacing back and forth. Yang Zongwen was sitting in the armchair, sipping tea with his eyes closed as if he was enjoying the fragrance of the tea. Centurion! Dong Qifei quickly greeted him. Chu Li waved his hand and sat on the main seat. It's already so late. What can't we talk about tomorrow? Centurion, we can't wait until tomorrow, Dong Qifei quickly said. This time, the Mei courtyard has gone too far. Chu Li looked at Yang Zongwen. Yang Zongwen fist saluted. Centurion, Elder Dong is right. This time, the Mei courtyard has gone too far. They took advantage of the Centurion's absence to snatch the second assassination case and monopolize it. Chu Li frowned. Imperial Crown Prince Shan's assassination case? That's right, Dong Qifei said. They haven't solved the Imperial Crown Prince Zhang's assassination case, but they still have the cheek to snatch the second case. They even said that the two cases are related and combining them would be the best way to solve the case. How shameless! Chu Li waved his hand. Yang Zongwen, when did this happen? 2 hours ago, Yang Zongwen said. The second assassination case was handed over to the Secret Guardians Hall directly. They didn't hand it over to the Fairy's capital magistrate. They were originally going to hand it over to the Mei Air courtyard, but the Centurion wasn't around. Chen Donghai from the Mei courtyard snatched it away. Chu Li said, Did the commander say anything? The commander didn't agree to it at first. Later, Chen Donghai issued a military order saying that the case must be solved within 3 days. Otherwise, he would be willing to be punished. Dong Qifei said hatefully. They must have gotten hold of some clues and were confident that they could snatch this case. They're really despicable. Chu Li waved his hand. Was he really confident? Solve the case in 3 days, Yang Zongwen said. Time is so tight. If he wasn't confident, would he dare to snatch this second case? Dong Qifei said, Centurion, we can't just let this go. If we don't snatch it back, will the Mei Air courtyard be treated as soft? They'll come and bully us. Yang Zongwen nodded. Centurion, Elder Dong is right. We must snatch it back. Chu Li frowned and scoffed. Forget about this case. We'll just snatch it from them next time. He did not expect the Mei courtyard to be so proactive. They were anxious, but it would be best if they were confident. It was exactly what he wanted. Prince Bao had nothing to say if the case could be solved. It was not that he did not want to accept it, but the Mei courtyard took the opportunity to snatch it away when he was attending the banquet. Seeing that Chu Li was indifferent, Dong Qifei became anxious. Centurion, if the case is solved, it'll be a rank 4 military merit. It's a rank 4 military merit. Yang Zongwen said slowly, That's why the Mei courtyard is jealous. Dong Qifei said, With a rank 4 military merit, we don't have to do anything for 2 years, and we'll still be able to eat and drink well. If the rewards are exchanged for silver, we can buy a mansion similar to the Secret Guardians Hall. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. He was not that sensitive about military merit. As the head chief of the imperial residence and the chief of the High Duke's public house, he never lacked money. He did not lack treasured swords, so he was not concerned. Yang Zongwen said, Centurion, since Chen Donghai is so heartless, we don't have to follow the rules. Just tell the commander that the Mei Air courtyard will investigate as well. We'll investigate separately and see who can solve the case first. Then, we'll return the rewards. That's right, that's right. This time, we'll give them a hard slap in the face. Dong Qifei said hurriedly, Let the other courtyards know how powerful the Mei Air courtyard is, so they won't dare to snatch the merit again. Chu Li said, Next time, I'll let it go this time. It was not wise to get into such trouble just for a big mansion. Centurion! Dong Qifei shouted in dissatisfaction. Chu Li waved his hand impatiently. Go, I'm tired too. Don't be an eyesore here, go do your things. Centurion, it's a rank 4 military merit. Dong Qifei shouted. Chu Li said, you'll get the merit sooner or later, go. As he said this, he got up and returned to his courtyard. The next day, he went to the secret guardian's hall. As soon as he arrived, a protector said, Centurion Chu, the commander wants to see you. Chu Li nodded and went to the main hall. Chapter 686. P.S. Update complete. Chu Li closed fist saluted the two commanders, then closed fist saluted again. Centurion Chen, you look good. Looks like the case is progressing well. Congratulations. Chen Donghai scoffed as he heard the sarcasm in Chu Li's words. Centurion Chu, you're a busy man. You're not around at such a crucial time. You should know that compared to the imperial residence, the matters of the secret guardian's hall are more important. Centurion Chu, please be more attentive and don't confuse your priorities. Fu Mengshan waved his hand. You two should stop talking. Look at the situation and you're still in the mood to bicker. Chu Li said, Commander, yesterday's assassination was snatched by Mei Yi Courtyard again. Isn't this too much? If they can't solve the first case, they'll snatch the second one. They might as well hand over the secret guardian's hall to the Mei Yi Courtyard. Why would they need the other courtyards? Su Huanda scoffed. I wanted to hand it over to you. Where are you? Chu Li closed fist saluted and apologized. Commander Su, I'm really sorry. I was busy yesterday and couldn't make it. Chu Li, are you close to Prince Bao? Su Huanda frowned. They knew that Chu Li attended the banquet at Prince Bao's imperial residence yesterday and had a close relationship with him. Chu Li said, I became friends with Prince Bao during the hunting ceremony last time. We've been in contact. That's ridiculous. Keep bragging. Chen Donghai sneered. Prince Bao is an honorable person. How can he be friends with a mere chief like you? Chu Li smiled. I'm the imperial residence's chief, but I'm also the centurion of the secret guardian's hall. No matter how honorable Prince Bao is, he can't underestimate the secret guardian's hall. Hee hee. Fu Mengshan waved his hand and laughed. In Prince Bao's eyes, a centurion is nothing. The secret guardian's hall was his pride and his status was superior. He was delighted to hear Chu Li's words. Chu Li closed fist saluted and smiled. Chen Donghai glared at Chu Li in disdain. He cursed under his breath, what a bootlicker! Chu Li smiled and said, Centurion Chen, since you've snatched this case and issued a military order for 3 days, I'm sure you've found some clues. You're about to get your hands on a rank 4 army. There's no need. Chen Donghai said coldly. Chu Li's words were filled with sarcasm, making him feel uncomfortable all over. Chu Li frowned and asked, Did you discover anything, Centurion Chen? Fu Mengshan said, Yes, Xiao Chen, do you have any clues? Chen Donghai said sternly, Commander, I suspect that these 2 assassinations were not carried out by the same group of people. Their martial arts were fundamentally different and they both used some strange martial arts. It will be very, very difficult to investigate clearly. Chu Li said, If that's the case, Centurion Chen, you don't have a clue at all. You didn't have a clue about the first case, so when you heard about the second case, you snatched it, hoping to find a clue by comparing the 2 cases. Unfortunately, you realized that the 2 cases weren't related to the same person, and there was nothing in common. That's why you still don't have a clue about the 2 cases, right? Fu Mengshan frowned and said, Is that so? Chen Donghai scoffed. Both of these assassinations were clean and efficient. There was only 1 assassin in the first assassination, but there were 3 of them in the second. The martial arts they used were all strange and bizarre. I didn't recognize their martial arts. Chu Li nodded and said, That's why I don't have a clue. It seems like Centurion Chen won't be able to complete this task in 3 days. How do you want to end this? Is it to ask the commander to let you go? Chen Donghai said, Commander, I want to borrow 3 people, the Ning brothers. Chu Li laughed. Chen Donghai said, The Ning brothers' tracking skills are unparalleled in the world. We found some clues at the assassination site. If the Ning brothers were to take action, they would definitely be able to track down those 3 fellas. Catching the murderers is just around the corner. The Ning brothers. Fu Mengshan looked at Chu Li. Chu Li said, The Ning brothers are very busy, they don't have time to help. Centurion Chu, that's not right. Chen Donghai scoffed. The Ning brothers are first secret guardians of the Secret Guardians Hall, then people from your May Air courtyard. Chu Li smiled. Borrowing the Ning brothers is fine, but if this case can be solved, the key is the Ning brothers. What do you mean? Chen Donghai sneered. You want to share the credit? Chu Li slowly nodded. Yes, once it's done, 90% of the military credit will belong to our May Air courtyard. 90%. Chen Donghai cried out involuntarily. Are you crazy? 90%. Chu Li said, Without the Ning brothers, can you solve this case? Who said we can't? Chen Donghai scoffed. Chu Li nodded. Then forget it, the Ning brothers are very busy. But with the Ning brothers it'll be faster, Chen Donghai said. If we drag this on for too long, the murderers might escape. Chu Li said, How about this, if you want to use the Ning brothers, then you'll get 90% of the military credit. If you don't, then I won't force you. That's fair, right? Fair my ass. Chen Donghai's face darkened. The one with the surname Chu, you're too greedy. When it comes to greed, who can compare to you, Centurion Chen? Chu Li said coldly. Fu Mengshan waved his hand and helplessly glared at them. Chu Li said, Commander, why don't we, the May Air courtyard, also take on this case and compete to see who solves it first and who catches the murderers first? Who gets the military credit? What do you think? He had already read Fu Mengshan's thoughts. The Emperor had actually asked him to solve the second assassination case. He did not know if it was a blessing or a curse to enter the Emperor's heart. Since the Emperor had spoken, it was impossible for him to refuse. Instead of that, he might as well take the initiative and make a better impression. If that's the case, Fu Mengshan muttered. Chen Donghai scoffed. Do you think you can solve it? Chu Li said, I know that the May Air courtyard can't solve it. It's up to us to solve this case. Chen Donghai scoffed. Commander, I've made a military pledge. Your military pledge is just a gamble, Chu Li said calmly. Until now, you haven't found any useful clues. What's the use of a military pledge? Fu Mengshan frowned and looked at Chen Donghai. Young Chen, how about this? Let the May Air courtyard investigate as well. 2 courtyards are much better than 1 courtyard. They'll spoil our plan. Chen Donghai said, Commander, I'll say this first. If they really come in and I can't solve the case, don't blame me. Chu Li laughed. You're trying to shirk your responsibility now? Giving yourself a way out? Fu Mengshan scoffed. All right, it's decided. Chu Li, the May Air courtyard will start investigating the second assassination case. Young Chen, don't forget about the first case. Chu Li fist saluted. Thank you, Commander. He read Chen Donghai's thoughts and knew that the May Air courtyard had no clues at all. The so-called military pledge to solve the case in 3 days was just a trick that Chen Donghai used to snatch from the May Air courtyard. Chen Donghai was currently regretting his decision and was trying to shirk it. He kept using words to provoke Chen Donghai, luring him to talk more. He kept reading the scenes that appeared in his mind and clearly knew the clues. The 3 people who assassinated Ling Shoshan were highly skilled in martial art. They had top-notch body techniques and strange yet powerful fist technique. They injured a few protectors and killed one of them. The fatal injury of the dead protector was a punch to the chest. The fist force was not strong, but the protector died because the location was just right. Commander, I want to see the protector's corpse, Chu Li said. Fu Mengshan nodded. All right, I'll get someone to bring you there. Chapter 687. Fu Mengshan said, Then let young Chen bring you there. The corpse is in their courtyard. Chu Li turned his head and fist saluted. Centurion Chen, thank you. Chen Donghai looked at him coldly. I've seen the corpse. There are no clues left. Do you think you can conjure something? Chu Li smiled. Everyone has different eyesight. Centurion Chen, you can't do it, but that doesn't mean I can't either. I'll have to see for myself. Chen Donghai scoffed. All right, then I'd like to see what the famous head chief Chu is capable of. Let's go. Both of you. Fu Mengshan said impatiently. Enough is enough. Don't forget the house's rules. If you really cause trouble, no one will have it easy. Chu Li smiled. Centurion, don't worry. We'll just argue. He glanced at Chen Donghai, shook his head, and walked out of the hall. Chen Donghai was extremely annoyed by his gaze. He scoffed coldly. Commander, it's better to get rid of such an arrogant fellow. If you have his ability, I'll definitely get rid of him. Fu Mengshan waved his hand. In the Secret Guardians Hall, those who are capable will be promoted and those who are mediocre will be demoted. Don't forget about the 3-day limit. If you really can't catch the murderer, you can forget about being a centurion. Yes. Chen Donghai scoffed and turned to leave in large strides. He could feel the commander's favoritism towards Chu Li and knew the reason. This person with the surname Chu was indeed more capable than others. They were all professionals and knew how difficult the cases that Chu Li had solved were. However, his position as the leader of Mei Yi Courtyard could not be shaken. He had to risk his life and think of a way to firmly suppress Mei Courtyard. When he came out of the hall, Chu Li was standing with his hands behind his back, looking at the surrounding scenery. He glared at Chu Li, feeling that he was an eyesore. It was fine to wait for someone, but he still put on such a leisurely look. It was awkward no matter how one looked at it. Follow me. Chen Donghai scoffed. Chu Li walked beside him and said calmly, Centurion Chen, are you confident? Aren't you afraid that you won't be able to complete the 3-day limit? Why not? Chen Donghai glared at him. Chu Li said, Can you catch the murderer? He's a murderer, after all. We can always catch him if we want to, Chen Donghai scoffed. Chu Li raised his eyebrows and asked in surprise, You dare to do that? Chen Donghai asked, Why not? Chu Li shook his head and sighed. Something will happen sooner or later. What happened? Chen Donghai sneered and said, You're still very inexperienced. Don't think that you can run amok in the world just because you have some skills. You're so arrogant that you don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. You'll have to go deeper and slowly learn. Chu Li frowned. You're saying that the commander actually knew about it, but he pretended not to know. What do you think? Chen Donghai casually snapped off a plum branch that had reached the roadside and crushed it into a ball of powder. He opened his hand to let the powder float away as he curled his lips and said, He only needs to pretend to be confused. If something really happens, he can just push the blame onto me, and I'll push the blame onto my subordinate. It's not a serious crime for a secret guardian to handle a wrong case. At most, he'll be transferred to another place, and he'll be transferred back after a while. Chu Li shook his head and said, What an eye-opener! You should know that it's impossible to solve so many cases. Chen Donghai scoffed and said, As long as you don't wrongly accuse the innocent. Those scapegoats deserve to die, they didn't die unjustly at all. Chu Li shook his head. Chen Donghai suddenly stopped and glared at him fiercely. Do you understand now? So what if it's a 3-day agreement? Do you really think you can hold me? Chu Li smiled at him and shook his head. Chen Donghai felt like he had punched a soft spot. He snorted and turned around to continue walking. The two arrived at Mei Yi Courtyard. This courtyard was similar in size and layout to Mei Courtyard, but there were more people inside. There were only 13 or 14 people in May Air Courtyard, but there were more than 100 people in May E Courtyard. Every room was occupied, which was completely different from May Air Courtyard's emptiness. Centurion. A white-haired old man greeted him. How is it? Here, do you recognize this person? Chun Donghai pointed at Chu Li. Centurion Chu, bring him to Imperial Crown Prince Shan's protector. Yes. The old man smiled and said, Centurion Chu, I'm Zhu Fan. Please follow me. Chun Donghai turned around and strode away, leaving Chu Li on the spot. Chu Li already knew that he would do this. He could not be bothered to get angry. He would just get back at him next time. He gave Zhu Fan a fist salute. Thank you. Zhu Fan chuckled. You flatter me. Centurion Chu, you're young and handsome. I admire you very much. Centurion Chu, please don't mind him. Haha, straightforward. Chu Li shook his head and laughed. Lead the way. Chen Donghai's mind was full of twists and turns. It was completely different from his straightforward personality. Zhu Fan chuckled and led the way. Chu Li stood in front of the middle-aged protector's corpse and frowned. There was only a wound on his chest. It seemed like a coincidence that he was killed in one hit. Chu Li closed his eyes and activated the nature restoration manifestation. The omniscient mirror looked at every inch of the corpse. Bones, muscles, internal organs, limbs, head, hair, and skin. Not a single spot was missed. These laid a solid foundation for the nature restoration manifestation. The first difficulty of the nature restoration manifestation was eyesight. The lower the level of the nature restoration manifestation, the weaker the ability of the five senses. The ability to collect information from the outside world would be weaker, and the results of analysis would be less accurate. Chu Li felt that his nature restoration manifestation was a large-scale information analysis and prediction system. To explain it in terms of knowledge from his past life, his brain was like a supercomputer that could analyze and predict the movements of objects. The omniscient mirror was the best information collection system. The more accurate the data, the more accurate the analysis and prediction result. His newly acknowledged master, Shen Su, did not have the omniscient mirror, so the power of the nature restoration manifestation was very weak. The difference in power between the two was like heaven and earth. It was no wonder that the nature restoration peak was declining. The requirements for cultivators were too high. Centurion Chu? Zhu Fan called out carefully. Judging from Chu Li's appearance, he seemed to have fallen asleep. He was dozing off beside a corpse. Indeed, geniuses all had unusual behaviors and quirks. Chu Li opened his eyes. His gaze was bright and threatening, but it slowly faded away. He furrowed his brows. Let's go. Chu Li turned and walked out. Thank you very much. You flatter me. Zhu Fan hurriedly said, Centurion Chu, did you see anything? Chu Li nodded. I learned something. What? Zhu Fan asked. Chu Li turned his head to look at him with a faint smile. Zhu Fan hurriedly smiled and said embarrassedly, Look at me, I'm too impatient. I can't wait to catch the murderer. Chu Li said, Go back and thank Centurion Chun for me. There's no need to send me off. I'll send you off, Zhu Fan hurriedly said. Chu Li did not say anything else and strode out. After Zhu Fan sent Chu Li off, he hurriedly returned to the main hall and fist saluted. Centurion, he's gone. Chen Donghai sat in the armchair and put down his teacup. He lazily scoffed. How was it? He seems to have found some clues, Zhu Fan said. Chen Donghai frowned. Can he really find anything? Zhu Fan said. He couldn't see anything from that punch. Is his eyesight that good? Chapter 688. Centurion, Zhu Fan hurriedly said, If we should snatch it, we should. It's a rank 4 military merit. If we snatch it, everyone will be grateful to us. He has such a big appetite, but he doesn't have the ability to do so. Chen Donghai scoffed. He even became enemies with this brat. I'll have to be on guard against his plots in the future. It can't be. Zhu Fan said, Centurion Chu has a good reputation. Do you think he's a good person? Chen Donghai said snappily. Magnanimous? He doesn't look angry, Zhu Fan said. Chen Donghai scoffed. This kind of guy is too shrewd. How can he tell what's going on? In any case, we have to guard against him. It is quite troublesome. Zhu Fan frowned and said, if he's a magnanimous person, he would have informed us as soon as he solved the case. Centurion, you'll be fine. If he harbors a grudge, we'll be in big trouble. The Centurion only had 2 choices in 3 days. The first was to admit defeat, and the second was to find a scapegoat and kill the culprit to silence him. The former would immediately be demoted to the rank of second in command, while the latter would not be punished. Moreover, he would receive a rank for military merit. However, if Chu Li really solved the case and found the real culprit, the Centurion would not only be demoted to second in command, but he would also be demoted to the bottom. If Chu Li wanted to take revenge on the Centurion, even if he caught the culprit, he would cover it up and wait for the Centurion to make his move. If the Centurion wanted to play it safe, he could only admit defeat and demote himself to second-in-chief. However, if Chu Li did not solve the case and was just bluffing, then the Centurion would be so depressed that he would fall ill. Chen Donghai stood up from the armchair and paced back and forth with his hands behind his back. Zhu Fan's eyes followed his movements and also felt that it was very troublesome. Whether or not Chu Li could solve the case was a gamble. If he could not solve it, then there was no point in talking about it. He would not be a threat at all. However, if he could solve the case, then he would have to build a good relationship with him, apologize and beg for mercy. Chen Donghai spun a dozen rounds in one go. Then, he gritted his teeth and said hatefully, "Damn it, he's ruthless. Old Zhu, go get 100,000 taels of silver and send it to him." 100,000 taels. Zhu Fan cried out involuntarily, "Centurion, isn't that too much?" Chen Donghai glared at him. "What's the use of giving less? Let's take a gamble and see if this kid has the ability to take it. What if he didn't solve the case? Find a chance to make him spit it out." Chen Donghai said hatefully, "Since he took 100,000 taels, he'll have to spit out 200,000 taels. Centurion, this kid isn't easy to fight," Zhu Fan advised. With just a few expressions, he was able to grab the Centurion's throat. Despite his young age, he possessed such formidable means and outstanding intelligence. He had to be careful. In the secret Guardian's Hall, if you can't defeat others, you won't be able to stand firm. Chen Donghai said, "If we don't fight him, our Mei courtyard's position will be snatched away by him sooner or later." "Yes." Zhu Fan nodded, cupped his fists and left. Chu Li sat in the main hall and pondered. His expression was solemn. The manifestation of nature restoration was indeed miraculous. From the wound of the dead protector, he was able to deduce the murderer's inner energy heart technique. It was the Great Light Scripture. He was not using the Divine Light Fist, but a rare fist technique. However, his inner energy was from the Great Light Scripture. After death, the inner force would also dissipate. There was almost no trace of inner force left. In the past, even with the omniscient mirror, it would have been difficult for him to see it because the other party had deliberately concealed it and did not use the Divine Light Fist. The fist force of the Divine Light Fist was unique, and the injuries it caused were also unique. With the omniscient mirror's observational ability, he could see it. This fist technique was rare, and it was difficult to determine its identity. However, the inner energy of the Great Light Scripture was also unique. Although it was indiscernible, he could see it through the manifestation of nature restoration. The Great Light Scripture and the Holy Church of Light. This made things suddenly complicated. King Ping, the military ministry's minister-counselor, and the Ji public house were already scary enough. Now, the Holy Church of Light was suddenly added to the mix. If King Ping really wanted to force the emperor to abdicate and ascend the throne, as long as he was not crazy, he would not cooperate with the Holy Church of Light. He could only look for the Tempest Temple. If that was the case, why did the people from the Holy Church of Light appear? Was the Holy Church of Light fishing in troubled waters? Or was there another inside story? He picked up his teacup and took a sip. In the face of this foggy crisis, he had no choice but to get involved unless he feigned ignorance and said that his ability was limited and he could not solve this case. Centurion, Zhu Fan is here to see you, Dong Qifei said loudly. He wished that the people from the other courtyards could hear him. Chu Li scoffed. Lower your voice, I can hear you. Invite him in. Yes, Dong Qifei said loudly. Chu Li glared at him, and Dong Qifei shrunk his neck and became obedient. Zhu Fan entered the main hall and gave a fist salute. Centurion Chu, I'm here on your orders to apologize to you. Chu Li raised his eyebrows and smiled gently. Centurion Chen, you're too polite. This is just a small token of my appreciation. Please accept it, Centurion Chu. He took out a few banknotes and handed them over with both hands. Chu Li glanced at Dong Qifei. Dong Qifei took the banknotes and passed them to Chu Li without counting them. Chu Li flipped the banknotes in his hand and smiled. 100,000 taels. Centurion Chen is very generous. Take it as an apology from the Centurion. Zhu Fan gave a fist salute and smiled. I hope Centurion Chu won't decline it. All right, it's hard to decline your kindness. It would be impolite for me to decline Centurion Chen's kindness. Chu Li smiled. Please thank Centurion Chen for me. Yes. Zhu Fan gave a fist salute. I'll take my leave then. Dong Qifei, see him out. Chu Li said. Dong Qifei grinned and chuckled. Elder Zhu, I'll see you out. Zhu Fan smiled and left with Dong Qifei. Chu Li held the 100,000 taels and smiled. He could see through Chen Donghai's intentions at a glance. Other than asking him to be merciful, Chen Donghai was also using the 100,000 taels to provoke him. He wanted to see if Chu Li had the ability to take it for free. Dong Qifei, he called out. Dong Qifei quickly answered, Yes. Come in. Chu Li scoffed. Dong Qifei looked silly, reckless, and impulsive, but he had his moments of enlightenment. After sending Zhu Fan off, he did not enter the main hall and pretended that nothing had happened. Dong Qifei carefully entered the main hall. Chu Li took out a banknote and stuffed it into his pocket. He tossed the rest to Dong Qifei. Take this and share it with everyone. Ah! Dong Qifei screamed and quickly caught the banknotes that were scattered everywhere. His hands moved quickly and caught the banknotes one by one, showing his exquisite skills. None of the 9 banknotes fell to the ground as they were all caught by him. Chu Li waved his hand. Everyone gets 6,000 taels each. Use the rest to buy some furniture in the courtyard. Do as you see fit. Centurion, Dong Qifei hurriedly said, this was given to you by Chen Donghai. How can you accept it? Chu Li could not help but laugh. Little? Yes, sir. Dong Qifei chuckled. 6,000 taels was not a small amount. It was half a year's salary for them. Qin Jin and the others had just returned and did not have any money on them. Moreover, they were old and needed money the most. This 6,000 taels was a timely help to them at home. Chapter 689. He appeared at the imperial residence of Prince Kong. Leng Shoshan personally came out to welcome him and brought him to his courtyard. The imperial residence of Prince Kong and the imperial residence of Prince Bao occupied about the same amount of land, but the decorations were completely different. Every courtyard was a garden. It was far from the spacious atmosphere of Prince Bao's residence. Every garden was unique in its own way. It was elegant to the extreme. Ling Shoshan's courtyard was also a garden. They sat in a gazebo above a small lake, a faint fragrance lingering in the air. Chu Li used the omniscient mirror to scan. The fragrance came from the wood used to build the gazebo. It was a type of strange sandalwood. The fragrance it emitted could refresh the mind and also repel mosquitoes and flies. It was the most expensive wood. To a normal person, the gazebo's purple pillars were not eye-catching and did not look luxurious. The lake water was clear, and one could see the spring at the bottom. The spring water kept bubbling as if it was about to burst out of the water. The round wooden table in the gazebo was purple, exuding nobility and vicissitudes. "Brother Chu, we're in trouble this time." Ling Shoshan personally filled his silver cup with a jade pot and sighed. "I was assassinated. It was probably Gu Qi's order." Chu Li had helped a lot with his personal identity. Ling Shoshan felt that it was best to address him as a brother. Chu Li said, "Fortunately, the Imperial Crown Prince is safe. Luckily, ninth brother forced his 4 protectors on me, or else, I really can't say for sure." Ling Shoshan showed an expression of lingering fear. Chu Li said, "I was ordered to investigate the Imperial Crown Prince's assassination and try my best to find the culprit." "Brother Chu, you want to investigate my case?" Ling Shoshan quickly asked. Chu Li nodded. Ling Shoshan slammed the table. "All right." He was extremely impressed with Chu Li's miraculous methods. He felt that with Chu Li's help, the culprit would not be able to escape. Chu Li said, "Even in the imperial residence, we have to be careful of assassinations." Ling Shoshan frowned and slowly nodded. Chu Li said, "Think about the assassinations in the imperial residence of King An. When these people go crazy, they don't care about their lives. What's there to worry about?" "Yes, we have to be careful." Ling Shoshan nodded. The imperial residence of King An was not weak either. They even had a master like Chu Li. Yet, they were still assassinated by martial arts masters time and time again. It was obvious that the people did not respect the imperial residence. "Imperial Crown Prince, how are the protectors' injuries?" Chu Li asked. Ling Shoshan shook his head. "These injuries are hard to treat, none of them were healed." "I want to meet them," Chu Li said. Ling Shoshan raised his voice to summon an elder and gave the order. Soon, 4 middle-aged bodyguards arrived at the gazebo. Their footsteps were as slow as an old man's. 3 of their faces were pale, and 1 of them was purple. They were breathing with difficulty. Ling Shoshan introduced Chu Li to them, and the 4 of them looked at Chu Li curiously. Chu Li was a legendary figure in the fairies' capital, and they had heard of his name before. They realized that Chu Li was younger than they had imagined, but they did not underestimate him. Although he was young, he was calm and steady, and he had a dignified temperament. Chu Li checked their injuries one by one and took the opportunity to expel the inner energy from their bodies. Their injuries had not been good all this time because their inner strength had not dissipated and could not be dispelled. Even though they had taken the elixirs from the palace, not only had their injuries not been alleviated, they had even worsened. If this continued, only death would await them. "Is it possible to find the murderer?" Ling Shoshan asked. Chu Li frowned and remained silent. "Can they leave now?" Ling Shoshan asked. Chu Li nodded. The 4 of them gave Chu Li a fist salute and thanked him for his help. Chu Li watched as they left, then looked at Ling Shoshan. Ling Shoshan hurriedly asked, "What is it, Brother Chu?" "The second person I reached out to was an insider," Chu Li said. Ling Shoshan's face darkened. "That's eldest brother Su, he's an elder in the family." Chu Li did not say anything else. Ling Shoshan took a deep breath and said hatefully, "He must have been possessed, how dare he betray the imperial residence?" Chu Li said, "Imperial Crown Prince, don't be in a hurry to make your move. You can take your time to observe and see if he has any intentions of rebelling." Sigh. Ling Shoshan smiled bitterly. "I was afraid that I would end up like 5th brother, carefully selecting the most reliable protectors. I never thought, after the Crown Prince was assassinated, he didn't even think about cleaning himself up." Could it be that he has an insider? Chu Li asked. Ling Shoshan shook his head. I've just calmed down, I don't have time to think about that. Chu Li said, the assassins this time are disciples of the Holy Church of Light. Holy Church of Light? It's them again? Ling Shoshan frowned. What are they trying to do? The Holy Church of Light was in an uproar a while ago, they had just calmed down, but now they were back. Chu Li sighed. I want to know what they're trying to do too. I'll go track the assassins first, I'll visit the Crown Prince next time. Ling Shoshan quickly said, the people from the Holy Church of Light are not easy to deal with, be careful. Chu Li closed fist, saluted and smiled. Be careful too, Crown Prince. He glided up to the treetops, stepped on the treetops and drifted away, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Qin Jin and the others were in the living room discussing what furniture to buy, whether they should change the furniture, buy some exotic plants in the courtyard, or open a pond to keep fish, and build 2 small pavilions. Chu Li suddenly appeared, and they quickly bowed. Chu Li said, Qin Jin, the 4 of you will follow me to track the assassins. Centurion, us brothers will go. Leave the tracking to us. Ning Buyuan quickly said. Chu Li shook his head. There's no need to track them this time, it's a fight to the death. The disciples of the Holy Church of Light can only go to the Grandmaster's boundary. The Ning brothers were instantly discouraged. Qin Jin smiled. We can finally move around, our bodies are rusty. Chu Li said, let's go now, do you have anything to prepare? Qin Jin and the others shook their heads. Let's go, Chu Li said. He brought the 4 of them out from the back door, concealed their bodies, and headed west. Chu Li secretly sighed as he glided. He did not expect this group of assassins to be so bold. Were they confident that no one would see through them, or did they think that no one would be able to catch up to them? They did not escape after the assassination, but instead hid in the fairy's capital. I don't need to tell you how to deal with the disciples of the Holy Church of Light, right? Let's end this quickly, we can't let them use their secret skills, we have to kill them within a few moves, even if it means getting injured. Chu Li said. Qin Jin and the others nodded. It was already noon, the sun was shining brightly in the sky, and they arrived at a residential area. This was a place where commoners lived, every residence was not big, and they were all a little old, there were no rich people living here. Chu Li stopped in front of a residence, and pointed diagonally across. The 4 of them signaled that they understood, the assassins were in the house next door. Chu Li's omniscient mirror could already see inside. Under the big locust tree in the small courtyard sat 3 middle-aged men in green, lazily drinking tea and chatting casually. The fragmented shadows left by the locust tree scattered on them, but they looked relaxed. Chu Li and the others happened to stop within the range of the 3 men's senses. Something's not right, a short and fat middle-aged man frowned. I have an ominous feeling, we can't stay here for long, we have to leave immediately. Brother Jiang, is there really a problem? The middle-aged man with a long and narrow face sat up straight. Someone is coming? Anyway, it was a sudden impulse, there must be danger, we have to leave immediately. The short and fat middle-aged man stood up, looking left and right. The last sturdy middle-aged man said casually, we're just scaring ourselves, who would be able to trace it back to us, but since it doesn't feel good, let's leave. The 3 of them put down their teacups, got up, and were about to leave. Just as they were about to move, Chu Li suddenly appeared behind the short and fat middle-aged man, a cold light flashing on his waist. The short and fat middle-aged man's reaction was sharp, as Chu Li expected. He lowered his body and leaped forward. Chapter 690. Chu Li's sword pierced the man's heart. When the sword was pulled out, the plump man was left half dead. He took a step forward and went behind the middle-aged man before stabbing him with his sword. The narrow-faced man reacted very quickly. He activated the secret technique of divine light the moment Chu Li appeared. When the sword was close, the technique was fully activated. Just as the tip of the sword was about to pierce him, he moved a foot to the side to avoid it and rushed toward Qin Jin and the others. Chu Li's sword suddenly changed direction and caught up to him, stabbing him in the left shoulder. The man did not stop, as if he was not the one who was stabbed. He rushed toward Qin Jin. Qin Jin and Feng Jing punched at the same time. Bang! The man's chest was punched, but he did not care. His fist continued to hit Qin Jin. Qin Jin tilted his body to deflect the force, but was not able to completely deflect it. The divine light fist was so powerful that Qin Jin spat out a mouthful of blood in the air. He was already heavily injured. Chu Li did not care about him anymore. Qin Jin and the others would deal with him. He took a step behind the man and stabbed him with his sword. The man scoffed and punched at the tip of the sword. Swoosh! A strong wind blew. The fist force of the divine light fist was solid. The sword felt like it was stabbing a rock. When the tip of the sword was in front of his fist, the man suddenly loosened his fist. He spread his fingers and twisted his wrist as if he was playing the zither. His nails hit the side of the sword. Ding! A huge force came from the sword. Chu Li scoffed and the heavenly demonic orb fell. The three men's cultivation levels were unexpectedly high and their reactions were fast. They immediately activated their secret skills when they saw him. No wonder they had the courage to stay in Fairy's capital. The heavenly demonic orb fell and a turbulent force appeared instantly. He tightened his grip and withstood the tremendous force coming from the sword. Then, he stabbed again against the momentum. Swoosh! The tip of the sword slid across the man's wrist. It was tough and difficult to penetrate. However, the modesty sword could cut through iron like mud. The skin on his wrist was cut open by the tip of the sword, revealing his white bones. The blood vessels on his wrist were cut open too and blood was gushing out. The man did not care and continued to punch with his left fist. The divine light fist was so close at hand that it was shockingly powerful. Chu Li could see that the fist force was solid, like a ball of burning charcoal smashing toward him. Chi! The tip of the sword pierced the fist energy. His white robe billowed in the wind, as if he was standing in a gale. The tip of the sword cut through the fist energy and pierced towards the fist. The sturdy middle-aged man followed suit. He loosened his grip, opened his fingers, and twisted his wrist. His fingertips swept toward the sword once again. Ah! The sturdy middle-aged man groaned as two of his fingers fell to the ground. Chu Li's manifestation of nature restoration had already predicted this move, and he had secretly prepared for it. The sturdy man loosened his fist. Chu Li immediately lowered the blade of his sword and rotated it 90 degrees. The slightest error could lead to a huge error. When the sturdy middle-aged man twisted his fingers, it wasn't his fingertips that swept the sword, but his knuckles that swept the sword's blade. The modesty sword could cut through iron like it was mud, and it was filled with the inner energy of the cloud slashing power. Chu Li's two fingers passed through the blade of the sword without any obstruction and landed on the ground soundlessly. His right wrist was bleeding profusely and two fingers on his left hand were sliced off. However, the sturdy middle-aged man's expression did not change. Instead, his fighting spirit surged. With a ferocious leap, he charged towards Chu Li. Chu Li dodged to the side and scoffed, "Who ordered you to do this?" The sturdy middle-aged man raised his voice and said, "Elder Jiang, you guys leave. I'll cover you." The short and fat middle-aged man who was leaning against the locust tree's roots smiled bitterly. The narrow-faced middle-aged man who was surrounded by the three men shook his head. They were doomed today and could not leave. He charged forward without a care for his own safety. Feng Jing and the other two men did the same. They used their secret skills to fight against him. Their bodies were covered in injuries, and they charged forward without a care for their own safety. Chu Li said calmly, "If you want to die, I'll grant your wish. Don't even think about entering the Western Paradise. If you're alive, you'll still have a chance. Maybe your fellow disciples will come and save you. As soon as he finished speaking, he appeared behind the sturdy middle-aged man and slapped his back with his left hand. Bam! The sturdy middle-aged man flew up and landed under the locust tree's roots, crushing the short and fat middle-aged man. His body was as stiff as a statue. He could only watch helplessly as he fell. His acupuncture point had been sealed by Chu Li's palm. Chu Li took 2 steps forward and stared at the narrow-faced middle-aged man who was surrounded. He pushed the manifestation of nature restoration to its limit and suddenly shot out a finger. Bam! The narrow-faced middle-aged man's body stiffened. 2 palms and 1 punch landed on him. He spat out a mouthful of blood. His body was no longer stiff. He ignored his injuries and threw a punch at Feng Jing, wanting to drag one of them down with him. Bam! Chu Li's divine light fist sent him flying. The narrow-faced middle-aged man flew in the air and suffered another finger force from Chu Li. His acupuncture point was sealed. His stiff body fell under the locust tree's roots and rolled on the ground with the other 2 men. Chu Li asked, "Elder Qin, are you all right?" Qin Jin shook his head with a grim expression. Chu Li looked at the other 3 men. "Elder Feng, Elder Jing, Elder Hua, are you guys all right? My old bones won't fall so easily." Feng Jing scoffed and glared at the 3 men on the ground. He had gone all out just now. He threw punches at each other without dodging. He wanted to see who could withstand it. His body felt like it was falling apart. He was in excruciating pain. His internal organs were injured and he needed to recuperate for a while. Although he was badly injured, he was filled with pride and joy. Chu Li said, "We have to leave quickly in case we get help." "Yes," Qin Jin quickly said. Chu Li grabbed 2 men while Zheng Dongxia snatched the last one. Everyone fluttered back to the secret guardian's hall and went straight to the main hall. Chu Li did not say a word along the way. His mind was racing. Qin Jin and the other 3 men knew not to disturb him. After taking 100,000 taels of silver from Chen Donghai, it was not appropriate for him to use any trick. Moreover, this matter was urgent. Even if Chen Donghai did not give him 100,000 taels of silver, he would not deliberately delay it. When Chu Li arrived at the main hall, he waved his hand and said, "Go back and recuperate." "Yes, Centurion." Qin Jin and the other 3 men fist saluted and left. Fu Mengshan and Su Huanda were sitting in the main hall. "These are the murderers?" Fu Mengshan pointed at the 3 men. Chu Li said, "Disciples of the Holy Church of Light." "Good boy, so fast." Fu Mengshan slapped the armrest of the armchair and chuckled. "I didn't entrust the wrong person after all." Chu Li smiled. "Commander, I can't smile anymore after getting a confession. What happened?" Su Huanda frowned. Chu Li said, "They were instructed by the Minister-Counselor of the Ministry of War, Gu Qi." The smile on Fu Mengshan's face froze. Su Huanda's expression darkened too. This was no small matter. The Minister-Counselor of the Ministry of War and the Holy Church of Light had already caused trouble once. Now it was happening again. Could it be fake again? It would be fine if it was fake, but if it was real, then the world would be turned upside down. The nature restoration manifestation made Chu Li's mind sharper and faster. On the way back, he had already deduced most of the matter. He realized that it was a false alarm, but it was no small matter. He took a deep breath and said, "Actually, I've secretly investigated the murderer of the first assassination case. It was instructed by the Deputy General under King Ping. If that's the case, the 2 assassination cases are not related." Fu Mengshan nodded. Chu Li shook his head. The assassination of Imperial Crown Prince Shan might be related to the investigation of the assassination of Imperial Crown Prince Jiang. They're in cahoots? Fu Mengshan's expression slowly darkened as he looked at Su Huanda. Su Huanda hurriedly said, "Chu Li, don't talk nonsense." Chu Li replied, How would I dare to talk nonsense about this? The minister-counselor of the Ministry of War was in cahoots with the Holy Church of Light. The Deputy General under King Ping was in cahoots with the Holy Church of Light. When the Holy Church of Light, the Minister-Counselor of the Ministry of War, and the Deputy General were put together, Fu Mengshan and Su Huanda's expressions changed drastically. "No, I have to report it immediately." Fu Mengshan jumped up. "Wait, Commander," Su Huanda hurriedly said and looked at Chuli. "This matter can't be fake, right?" Chuli replied, "I don't have any evidence. It's just my speculation." Fu Mengshan glared at him. "You're deliberately trying to shock me." Chuli shook his head. "Most likely." Fu Mengshan stared at him as if he wanted to see through him. Chuli looked back at him calmly. Su Huanda also stared at him. Fu Mengshan sat down and tapped his fingers on the armrest of the armchair. At first, his tapping was slow, but it gradually became faster and faster. Bang! He slammed the armrest and stood up. "I'll report to the Emperor." "Chuli, you should get ready to. Get ready to meet the Emperor." Chapter 691. He returned to the May Air courtyard and pondered with a frown. He had to inform Prince Bao and Prince Kong about this in advance, lest they react passively and end up in a bad situation with the Emperor. Thus, he wrote 2 letters and sent them to Ling Shaoxi and Ling Shoshan respectively. He then asked Ning Buiyuan and Ning Zhongyuan to deliver them separately. After doing all this, he sat in the living room, frowning and deep in thought as he waited for news from Fu Mengshan. He was worried that he might have to meet the Emperor this time. Almost no one knew what kind of divine ability a heavenly god expert had. Could he see through them and see through their divine abilities? Life and death scripture, omniscient mirror, and even God's limbs? He instinctively rejected the feeling of being seen through. However, he would not be able to pass the test of meeting the Emperor. How could such an important matter be decided so casually? Of course, he had to ask him, the person who had handled the matter, in detail to determine whether it was true or false before making a decision. The Emperor's decision often concerned the fate of thousands of people, so he couldn't be too careful. Once he gave the order, he had no choice but to obey. At this moment, he had a strong desire to become a heavenly god. He did not want to live a life where his fate was not in his control anymore. He wanted to truly be free. 2 hours later, through the omniscient mirror, he saw that Fu Mengshan had returned to the main hall of the Secret Guardians Hall with a ghastly expression. When he arrived at the hall, Fu Mengshan was drinking tea nonstop with a gloomy look on his face. He had always been cheerful and amiable, like a Maitreya Buddha. This kind of expression was very rare. Chuli gave a fist salute. "Commander, have you met the Emperor?" "The Emperor is in seclusion," Fu Mengshan scoffed. Chuli turned to look at Su Huanda. Su Huanda shook his head and said, "The Emperor is in seclusion. The commander has been waiting outside for a long time and insisted on seeing the Emperor. The chief of the imperial house refused, so he didn't get to see the Emperor." Chuli frowned and looked at Fu Mengshan. Fu Mengshan said in annoyance, "Of course I said it's an extremely urgent matter, but it's useless. The Emperor is in closed-door training and refuses to see anyone." "How long will you be in isolated cultivation?" Chuli hurriedly asked. Fu Mengshan said, "This is a highly confidential matter. Why would the chief of the imperial house tell us?" Chuli frowned and said, "In that case, we can only assume that the Emperor won't come out of isolated cultivation. I think their target is King Ping." Now that the Holy Church of Light was involved, Chuli felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. With a plan in mind, he could connect the dots and combine it with the current situation of the world. He could guess most of the things that happened in the world. There was nothing new about it. King Ping. Fu Mengshan grinned. Su Huanda shook his head. King Ping's way of doing things is tyrannical. He won't allow us secret guardians to stay by his side. The number of secret guardians in the Xinjiang military is pitifully small, and he doesn't even have one by his side. Chu Li said, King Ping is a genius general. Our Ji dynasty's army is weak, but we're able to fight evenly with the Li dynasty's cavalry. King Ping deserves great credit. That's true. Su Huanda nodded. Otherwise, His Majesty wouldn't have tolerated him to this extent. Why didn't he send secret guardians over? Fu Mengshan scoffed. Young Chu, are you saying that the Holy Church of Light plans to get rid of King Ping? Chu Li had investigated the situation at the western border, so he knew quite a lot of information. He said, the Ji dynasty is good at defense, but His Highness King Ping is good at commanding troops. Once he changed the defensive stance, he could take the initiative to attack and defeat the Li dynasty's cavalry. He could even enter the Li dynasty's territory to attack and pillage. That's why he has so many military achievements. Chu Li scoffed. The Li dynasty must hate King Ping to the core. Su Huanda nodded. King Ping is the one that the Li dynasty hates the most from the Ji dynasty. They must have assassinated King Ping before, right? Chu Li asked. King Ping is almost always in the military camp. Assassinating him is as difficult as ascending to heaven, unless an enlightened master is involved. Fu Mengshan shook his head. Young Chu, you've never seen a military camp. You'll know when you see it for yourself. Even you can't break into the military camp to assassinate him. Su Huanda said, moreover, King Ping has many top-notch masters around him. It's impossible to assassinate him. If they can't assassinate him, they'll have to use the military to kill King Ping, Chu Li said. If they surround King Ping, they should be able to kill him, right? King Ping is good at commanding troops. He's never been at a disadvantage. Su Huanda shook his head. He's always been the one to surround others. If the deputy generals leak information to the Li dynasty, can they surround King Ping? Chu Li asked. Fu Mengshan and Su Huanda frowned. Commander, can we find out about the Ministry of War? Chu Li asked. Fu Mengshan looked troubled. The secret guardians hall can't touch this area, Su Huanda said. Chu Li said, this is a critical period. We have to think of a way. This is overstepping their authority and violating the Emperor's taboo. They won't end well. Su Huanda said, the Emperor has put us in an important position, but he's also wary of us. After all, he has too much power. We have to be on guard. Chu Li said, we have to investigate the Minister-Counselor of the Ministry of War, Gu Qi. We have to clarify the order he passed through regarding King Ping. Fu Mengshan shook his head. The Minister-Counselor isn't qualified to give military orders to King Ping. Only the Assistant Minister can. Chu Li shook his head. This Gu Qi is a big problem. We could have slowly investigated him to find out why he betrayed us, whether he was forced or for some other purpose. We could have taught him a lesson. However, if the 3 disciples of the Holy Church of Light are captured, Gu Qi will know that something is wrong. We have to arrest him immediately. Without evidence, arresting a minister-counselor. Fu Mengshan hesitated and frowned. I'm afraid it's easier to invite the devil than to send him away. We'll search after arresting him. I don't believe we can't find any evidence. Chu Li said, I think we should leave this to Mei-Yi Courtyard. Gu Qi is considered an accomplice of Imperial Crown Prince Zhang's assassination. Mei-Yi Courtyard will solve this case. Su Huanda looked at him doubtfully. They were the clearest about Chu Li and Chen Donghai's dirty dealings and were happy to do so. If their subordinates were harmonious with each other, it would be difficult for them to be commanders and deputy commanders. They would not be able to control them as easily. Chu Li said, we're colleagues after all. We can't make things too tense. It's not embarrassing to take a step back when appropriate. All right, it's rare for you to be so broad-minded at such a young age. Fu Mengshan smiled. Alright, we'll leave this to Mei courtyard. Are we really going to capture Guqi? Su Huanda asked. Fu Mengshan said, we'd rather capture the wrong person than let him escape. Otherwise, we'll be ashamed. That's true. Su Huanda slowly nodded. Fu Mengshan said, I'll think of a way to look at the military situation. Elder Su, I'll leave the rest to you. Don't worry, Commander. I'll instruct Chen Donghai, Su Huanda said. Fu Mengshan stood up and strode away. Chu Li returned to the living room of Mei Air Courtyard. It was not that he wanted to give the credit to Chen Donghai. The key was that Qin Jin and the others were injured and could not make a move for the time being. Guqi was not easy to deal with either, so it was not a bad idea to let Chen Donghai try his luck. 2 hours later, Fu Mengshan returned to the living room and called Chu Li over for a discussion. Chen Donghai has gone to capture Guqi. Tell me about the military situation I've obtained. Fu Mengshan went straight to the point. The Li dynasty's cavalry is preparing to invade the south again. The military order given to King Ping by the Ministry of War is to stay put and focus on defense. Su Huanda frowned. Will King Ping be obedient? Chapter 692. P.S. Update complete. Chu Li said, if that's the case, King Ping is in danger. Yes. Fu Mengshan nodded solemnly. If he doesn't know that the deputy general beside him is a spy and acts rashly, he'll easily fall into a trap and be surrounded. That's why we have to pass this news to King Ping as soon as possible. Chu Li said, isn't the Secret Guardians Hall the fastest way to transmit information? The fastest way is to use the Golden Eagle. Fu Mengshan frowned. The problem is that King Ping might not believe it and our people can't get close to him. Su Huanda said, once the Xinjiang military takes action, it'll be even harder to find King Ping. Let me do it, Chu Li said. Fu Mengshan smiled. Young Chu, your light body technique is the best and your status is high enough. It's best if you do it. Chu Li said, I need a token that can win King An's trust. I have a gold medal. If you show it, King Ping will definitely meet you. I also need King Ping's personal belongings, Chu Li said. I'll think of a way. Fu Mengshan said. Chu Li said, all right, I'll find King Ping and tell him to be careful of that deputy general. That's the best. Fu Mengshan smiled. Chu Li fist saluted. I'll return to the imperial residence to make some arrangements. Commander, let me know when you're ready. Come as soon as possible. Fu Mengshan said, we can't delay any longer. This delay might decide King Ping's life or death. Chu Li nodded. Chu Li first returned to the imperial residence and changed his clothes. He took off the white robe that he had been wearing and changed into a purple robe. Suddenly, he looked a little more noble. At first glance, one could tell that he was either rich or noble. When he returned to the main hall of the Secret Guardians Hall, Fu Mengshan and Su Huanda were already waiting there. This is King Ping's thumb ring. Fu Mengshan took out a white jade thumb ring and handed it to Chu Li. It took me a lot of effort to get this. Be careful, don't lose it. Chu Li looked at it and smiled. It's an exquisite item. Commander, are you returning it? Of course, Fu Mengshan said. Fu Mengshan said, otherwise our secret guardians will be exposed. King Ping is very sensitive about this. Once the secret guardians are exposed, we'll completely lose control of King Ping's imperial residence. The Secret Guardians Hall can't afford to miss any part of their network, even if it's King Ping's imperial residence. Chu Li nodded and took the white jade thumb ring. It was indeed not an ordinary item. It was made of the best jade, and after being nourished for a long time, it had a bit of spiritual energy. He put it on his left index finger, and it fit perfectly, as if it had been made for him. Chu Li touched it. It felt good. Fu Mengshan took out a purple gold plate from his bosom. It was about the size of a palm and was octagonal in shape. Both sides of the plate were carved with a short sword. One sword was pointing upwards, while the other was stabbing downwards. These two short swords were very lifelike, as if they were going to break out of the golden plate at any moment and stab over. Looking at them, one could not help but take a step back, wanting to avoid them. Chuli was not affected at all. He stared at it steadily. With one look, he could tell that it was the work of a famous artist. Moreover, the artist's cultivation level was profound. An average person would not be able to carve such an imposing manner. "Good sword," he praised. Fu Mengshan smiled and said, "You finally know what's good for you. There's a set of sword technique contained in this golden plate. Whoever can cultivate this sword technique will be able to move unhindered in the world and rarely have any opponents." Chuli could not help but laugh as he shook his head. "How can there be such a good thing?" Fu Mengshan said. "You don't believe me?" Chuli shook his head. Fu Mengshan scoffed and said, "This is what the Emperor told me personally." "Could it be the sword technique carved by the Emperor?" Chuli asked. Fu Mengshan shook his head. "The Emperor obtained it by accident, so he gave it to me. He wanted me to try and see if I was fated to do so." "Then, Commander, have you comprehended it?" Chuli asked. Fu Mengshan shook his head. "I'm not good at comprehension, so I haven't been able to comprehend it. However, it's greatly beneficial to the improvement of my own sword technique." Su Huanda said, "Chuli, your comprehension is better than others. You can try to comprehend it, but you have to settle the matter first. Don't lose the bigger picture because of a small gain." "All right, I'll try. Thank you, Commander." Chuli smiled. He knew that this was Fu Mengshan's reward for him. Fu Mengshan fiddled with the purple gold plate and was reluctant to hand it over to Chuli. Chuli impatiently urged him, "Commander, don't worry. I won't lose it. You'd better not have any ulterior motives and be greedy for this gold plate." Fu Mengshan scoffed and said, "This is my life-saving item." Chuli said, "Can it make up for the death penalty, Commander?" "Yes." Fu Mengshan smiled and said, "With this gold plate I can sleep in peace." He knew too many things about the Emperor, and knowing too much would be dangerous. Perhaps the Emperor would be in a bad mood one day and kill him. Chuli solemnly said, "Don't worry, I'll return it safely." "That's good." Fu Mengshan reluctantly handed it over to Chuli. Chuli reached out and took it, not giving him a chance to regret. "Then I'll set off now." "Go, go," Fu Mengshan said. "We'll take this as a gamble. If you make a mistake, both of us will be in trouble with you." Chuli smiled and fist saluted, then turned around and left. Fu Mengshan shook his head and looked at him. "It's still good to be young, Elder Su." Su Huanda said, "If this matter is true, Commander, you've made a great contribution." Fu Mengshan smiled and said, "Let's see if he can meet King Ping." Chuli used the white jade ring to perform the all-seeing divine power and God's limbs. In a quarter of an hour, he rushed from Fairy's capital to western border. He stood at the peak of a mountain and looked around. In front of him was a military camp that stretched as far as the eye could see. There was a sea of people, and flags fluttered in the wind, covering the sky. An army of 100,000 sounded like nothing, but one would only understand how many people there were and how imposing they were when they saw it with their own eyes. Within the range of his omniscient mirror, it was all densely packed with soldiers. The military camp that these soldiers were in was neatly arranged, built according to battle formation. No matter how powerful a martial arts master was, he would definitely die if he barged into such a military camp. First of all, he would get lost and lose his sense of direction. Second, there were masters everywhere in the military camp. Chuli carefully looked at these soldiers. Most of them were acquired masters, 1 in 10 was an innate master, and 1 in 1,000 was a grandmaster. If they were in the martial arts world, these grandmasters were enough to wipe out any sect. Apart from the 4 major sects, no one could stop them. How could King Ping be willing to give up such a huge force? How could King Jing sleep in peace? The emperor was in a dilemma. He observed for a long time with rapt attention and discovered a secret. The camp was built with traces of a formation, so it should be a military formation. When he was reading the Book of Formations, he happened to see the military formation technique mentioned in the book. The principle was similar, but it was not the same as formations. After observing it, he deeply agreed with it. Formations used natural objects as tools to form a unique world and drive the energy of heaven and earth. On the other hand, a military formation used people as tools. Through the standing of people, a strange force between heaven and earth could be triggered and driven. He did not know the power of a military formation, but through the omniscient mirror, he could faintly feel that even a grandmaster would not be able to do well in a military formation. It would be difficult for them to even protect themselves, let alone assassinate them. This military camp could hide King Ping in it through the military formation technique. He could not find him even through the omniscient mirror. He circled the military camp a few times and walked more than 100 miles, but he still could not find King Ping. In this case, it was impossible for him to directly appear in front of King Ping with his divine power. He could only use the stupid method. Fortunately, King Ping did not send his troop. It seemed to be very quiet here, unlike what the Ministry of War's military report described, where swords were drawn and blood was shed. He did not know what was going on, but he did not want to ask. He only wanted to see King Ping as soon as possible and tell him that there was a spy around King Ping. As for the rest, he would let King Ping deal with it himself. He was an expert in commanding troops, so he was naturally proficient in strategy. He waited patiently from afternoon until night, then from night until the next morning. Suddenly, he felt refreshed and appeared in front of 4 cavalrymen. They were 4 scouts who rode out to gather information. When they returned, they saw Chu Li. Nay. The horses neighed softly and stopped. Chu Li Fist saluted. The 4 scouts stared at him vigilantly. Their bodies were tense. They were all grandmasters. Chapter 693. The 4 scouts furrowed their brows and stared at him vigilantly. Chu Li took off the white jade ring from his index finger and handed it over. This is a token. I am His Royal Highness's scribe, Lu Si. When His Royal Highness sees this ring, he will know who I am. I hope the 4 heroes can let me in. I will put in a few good words for you in front of His Royal Highness. For the 4 of them, transferring to another good job was just a matter of words for His Royal Highness. But for them, it was a matter of life and death. It was a completely different fate. The 4 of them looked at each other. Looking at Chu Li's appearance, he was either rich or noble. He was indeed not an ordinary person. He did not have inner energy and did not know martial arts. Such a person was indeed safe. With the token as proof, it was worth a try. If they could really put in a few good words for the 4 of them in front of His Royal Highness, it would be a great fortune. All right, please wait a moment. We will go back to report, but we may not be able to see His Royal Highness. A handsome young man with a long scar on his face said, Wait outside, there will be news. Thank you 4 heroes. I have not yet asked for your names. Chu Li Closed Fist saluted and smiled. Seeing his sincerity, the 4 of them were even happier. They told him their names and rode their horses. They rode 5 miles into the military camp. The soldiers guarding the camp saw their waist tags and let them in directly. They rode their horses into the camp and ran to a small tent. The 4 of them neatly dismounted and Closed Fist saluted to report. Chu Li's eyebrows twitched. Was this the marshal's tent? He could not see the marshal. It should not be. The 4 of them quickly entered the tent. Chu Li's omniscient mirror could no longer see clearly. He did not notice the small round tent before. Now that he looked carefully, he realized that the tent was wrapped in an invisible force. It seemed to be one with the surroundings. Wherever one looked, they would naturally glance to the side and not notice the tent. It seemed that this was the beauty of a military formation. It could hide the main tent. A moment later, a soldier ran out in big strides and soon reached the outside of the military camp. On both sides of the military camp's gate, more than 20 horses stood in a row tied to a pole. 3 grooms were adding food and water to the manger. 2 grooms were brushing the horses and another grooming their hooves. The soldier leaped onto one of the 2 horses and galloped towards Chuli. Chuli waited on the spot. The elite soldier approached him and raised his voice. "Are you Mr. Lucy?" "You flatter me, I am Lucy." Chuli closed fist saluted. "Follow me, General Sun wants to see you," the soldier said loudly and let go of the reins. Chuli took the reins and leaped onto the horse. "Thank you very much." The soldier rode his horse in front, and Chuli followed closely behind. He stopped his horse in front of the military camp and threw the reins to the 2 horsekeepers. Chuli followed the elite soldier inside. After walking for more than a mile, he passed by the tents he had seen before and arrived in front of a large tent. This tent seemed to be hidden in the military formation and could not be seen. Along the way, he observed the arrangement of the military formation and found nothing strange. The key was the word neat. As for the others, they probably wouldn't reveal themselves, and he wouldn't be able to detect them. He could feel an indescribable power surging around him, as if he was in the sea. His breathing was not as smooth as usual, and his aura was not as smooth as usual. It was obvious that the military formation was weakening his inner strength. "General Sun, he's here." The soldier closed fist saluted in front of the tent. 2 elite soldiers stood guard in front of the tent. Their gazes were as cold as swords, and when they landed on Chuli, it was as if they were solid. "Come in." A gentle voice came from inside. Chuli could not see the situation inside the tent. The soldier lifted the curtain and said, "Mr. Lu, please come in." Chuli closed fist saluted and thanked him with a smile before stepping into the tent. As soon as he stepped into the tent, his eyes lit up. It was not as gloomy and dark as he had imagined. Instead, it was bright, gentle, and spacious. A slightly plump young man stood in front of the desk with his hands behind his back, sizing him up. "You're Lucy?" Chuli closed fist saluted. "Greetings, General Sunday. I'm Lucy, a scribe from King Ping's imperial residence. I'm here on the orders of Chief Bai to meet your Royal Highness." This plump young man was dressed in a gray robe. His gaze was gentle and peaceful, and he had a smile on his face. He was completely different from the cold aura around him, but he did not seem out of place. This was Sun Jianhe. Although Chuli had never judged a person by their appearance, he was still surprised. This man was completely different from what he had imagined. "The general is discussing the military situation. I'm afraid he won't be able to see you for a while." Sun Jianhe extended his hand and gestured for him to sit down. He smiled and said, "Why are you in such a hurry? Is something the matter?" Chuli closed fist saluted and sat on the armchair. He leaned forward slightly and sat on the edge of the chair. He said respectfully, "Please forgive me, General. I dare not divulge any information." He. Sun Jianhe shook his head and laughed. "It seems to be very important information." Chuli nodded slowly. Sun Jianhe said, "How about this? You can rest here for now. When the general is done discussing the military situation, I'll let him know." Chuli looked troubled and hesitantly asked, "General Sun, can you inform the general immediately?" "What's the matter?" Sun Jianhe looked solemn. "Is it related to the general?" Chuli shook his head and sighed. "I can't say." Sun Jianhe asked, "A national matter?" Chuli shook his head. "It's a family matter. Since it's a family matter, we can only put it aside. The military situation is more important. Even if the general finds out, he won't care about you. It's not like you don't know the general's temper." Sun Jianhe shook his head and smiled. He looked at Chu Li thoughtfully. Chu Li sighed. General Sun, no matter what, I must report this to the general immediately. Sun Jianhe shook his head. If you don't tell me what's the matter, how am I supposed to report it? How about this, I'll inform him that you're here. Chu Li frowned and thought for a moment before sighing. All right, General Sun, just tell him that the princess is critically ill and that His Royal Highness needs to return immediately. Nonsense. Sun Jianhe's heart skipped a beat. The princess is very healthy. Why would she be critically ill? Are you trying to disrupt the army's morale? He then raised his voice and said, Guards! Here! 2 soldiers shouted from outside. Chu Li sighed inwardly. There was indeed something wrong with this Sun Jianhe. The 2 soldiers stepped in and stood with their swords in their hands. Sun Jianhe looked at Chu Li calmly. This is an urgent military situation, so I can't allow you to disturb the general's thoughts. The lives of 100,000 soldiers are in the general's hands. Once he's distracted, who knows how many people will be sacrificed. I can only let the princess and you suffer. After this is over, I'll personally offer a humble apology to the general. For now, you should go with them obediently and I'll let you go after this. Chu Li revealed an indignant expression. General Sun, if the general doesn't get to see the princess one last time, he'll definitely vent his anger on you. Chapter 694. The 2 soldiers held on to their long blades and approached Chu Li. Chu Li pretended to be angry and glared at Sun Jianhe. Fine, I'd like to see how General Sun will be punished. I've delivered the letter anyway. General Sun, you're the one who detained me, so you can't blame me. It's good that you understand. You're not to be blamed for this. Sun Jianhe nodded and gave the 2 soldiers a look. They nodded lightly. Chu Li pretended not to see and obediently walked out of the tent. Just as he lifted the curtain and bent over to go out, 2 bright flashes of light slashed at his back. As if he had eyes on the back of his head, Chu Li suddenly took a step forward and stood outside the tent, avoiding the flashes of light. He yelled, Your Royal Highness, I'm Lucy, I want to see you. His voice was like a huge wave crashing onto the beach, slowly spreading out in the sky and resounding throughout the military camp. The 2 soldiers rushed out of the tent and slashed at him with their blades. The flashes of light were like silver silk, magnificent and deadly. Chu Li dodged again and yelled, Your Royal Highness, I'm here on the orders of Chief Bai to see you. Sun Jianhe lifted the curtain and stepped out of the tent, waving his hand. Stop! The 2 soldiers glared at Chu Li fiercely but withdrew their blades and sheathed them, looking at Sun Jianhe in shame. Sun Jianhe looked at Chu Li thoughtfully and said, as expected of a scribe from the imperial residence, Very clever. Chu Li raised his voice and yelled, General Sun, if you kill me, His Royal Highness will definitely avenge me. Sun Jianhe stood in front of the tent and smiled gently. You're just a scribe. If I kill you, so be it. His Royal Highness will at most reprimand me. It's not a big deal. You, on the other hand, are quite skilled in martial arts even though you're a scribe. Chu Li pretended to be angry and glared at him. Who said scribes can't know martial arts? Sun Jianhe frowned and stared at him. You deliberately hid your martial arts? Chu Li looked like he did not know martial arts, and even if he did, it was only a little bit. He was only at the 1st or 2nd level of acquired mastery, not innate mastery. However, his 2 yells showed that he was a grandmaster. It was precisely because he had underestimated his martial arts that he had the chance to speak. Otherwise, he would have been killed by the protectors in the tent. There were 4 grandmasters hiding in the tent, so killing him would be a piece of cake. If he made a wrong move, he wouldn't be able to silence him. His Highness would definitely hear it. Chu Li scoffed. General Sun, although I'm a scribe, I'm the princess's personal scribe. I'll only fight during critical moments. You're forcing me to fight now. You've committed a grave sin. Sun Jianhe smiled. I really made an error of judgment. He was not too concerned about not being able to silence her. Even if the princess was really ill, at this time, no one could allow the general to return to Luoyang to visit. The general could not leave before the war. 2 heavily armored soldiers strode over. General Sun. The setting sun reflected on the armor, and the cold light flashed, making people shudder. Bring him to the commander-in-chief. Sun Jianhe smiled lightly. Mr. Liu, please excuse us. Chu Li pretended to be angry and turned his head away. He scoffed and walked straight ahead. The 2 heavily armored soldiers gave Sun Jianhe a fist salute and turned to follow Chu Li, rushing to lead the way. They came to a tent that was almost identical to Sun Jianhe's. The 2 heavily armored soldiers reported in a low voice, "Commander-in-chief, Mr. Liu is here. Let him in." A cold voice came from inside the tent. The 2 heavily armored soldiers lifted the curtain. Chu Li gave a fist salute and slowly stepped in. The tent looked similar, but the layout was completely different from Sun Jianhe's tent. There was a huge sand table in the center, which was a real map of the mountains and rivers. It was as if one was looking down at the world from a high altitude. The carpet was thick and soft, and it was silent when one stepped on it. The tent was filled with a delicate fragrance, and the incense burner was the most precious incense. The armchair was made of dark sandalwood, which was extremely rare. There were a few fruit platters on the table, all of which were rare fruits that were hard to find in this season. Chu Li sighed at the extravagance. A tall and thin middle-aged man was looking at the sand table with his head lowered, ignoring him. Chu Li looked up and sized up King Ping. He had a long, slanted face and a face full of hardships. He wasn't handsome, but his facial features were sharp and firm. One look at his temperament and you could tell that he was an overbearing and powerful person. King Ping raised his head and glanced at Chu Li. His gaze was cold as if it could pierce through one's heart. Chu Li from the Secret Guardians Hall greets the Royal Highness. Chu Li fist saluted and glanced at the corner of the tent. That place was empty, but he felt a dense chill. There were 2 top-notch experts hidden there. There were 4 grandmasters hidden in Sun Jianhe's tent, but they were far inferior to these 2. The Secret Guardians Hall. King Ping's face darkened. The Secret Guardians Hall specialized in doing shady things, and he hated this kind of people the most. Therefore, there was almost no one from the Secret Guardians Hall in the military, and they were all driven out. As soon as he heard about the Secret Guardians Hall, he knew that it was nothing good. Please forgive me, Your Royal Highness. For the sake of secrecy, I can only pretend to be a scribe of the imperial residence and lie that the princess is in critical condition. Chu Li closed fist saluted. King Ping said coldly, "What's going on?" The Secret Guardians Hall has always been secretive. Chu Li looked to his left and right. Tell me they're all trustworthy, King Ping said. Chu Li took out the amethyst gold tag and handed it to King Ping. When King Ping saw the amethyst gold tag, his expression changed and he waved his hand. Chu Li took back the amethyst gold tag. The chill in the tent disappeared, and the hidden protectors retreated. They were silent, but they could not hide from Chu Li's omniscient mirror. They used the phantom skill of Amethyst Mountain. Chu Li's mind raced. Since there were Amethyst Mountain disciples here, the other 3 sects of the 4 major sects would not let Amethyst Mountain monopolize the limelight. Chu Li said, there were 2 assassinations in Fairy's capital. One was Prince Kang's Crown Prince Jiang, who was assassinated, and the other was Prince Kang's Crown Prince Shan, who was also assassinated, but luckily escaped. I was ordered to investigate these 2 cases. Crown Prince Jiang was assassinated by a martial arts master named Zhu Wu, and the instigator was General Sun Jianhe. The mastermind of Crown Prince Shan's case was the minister-counselor of the Ministry of War, Gu Qi. King Ping's expression did not change, and he only frowned slightly. Sun Jianhe? Chu Li nodded and continued, Crown Prince Shan's assassins were 3 disciples of the Holy Church of Light. King Ping's frown deepened. The secret Guardians Hall suspects that General Sun Zhanhe is in contact with the Holy Church of Light, and their target is you, Your Royal Highness. Chu Li said, so when they received the news, they immediately sent me to inform Your Royal Highness. Sun Zhanhe. King Ping seemed to be deep in thought, but he did not say anything. Chu Li said, Your Royal Highness is a brilliant strategist, so there's no need for us to say more. I'll take my leave, and I hope that Your Royal Highness can help conceal my identity. You don't want such a great merit? King Ping asked. Chu Li said, I might have to use this identity to meet Your Royal Highness in the future. King Ping scoffed. It's best if we don't meet. I understand. Chu Li muttered, I have a humble opinion, and I'd like to show off in front of an expert, Your Royal Highness. Tell me about it, King Ping said coldly. Chu Li said, the best plan is, of course, to work together and trap Your Royal Highness. King Ping nodded. Chapter 695. King Ping's expression changed slightly before returning to normal. He nodded. That makes sense. As the Deputy General, Sun Zhanhe led 10,000 troops. The destruction of 10,000 troops would be a huge blow to the Shijiang military. The Shijiang military was the most elite soldiers in the Ji dynasty. Losing 1/10 of them would have a decisive impact on the situation between the Ji dynasty and the Li dynasty. Once he suffered such a heavy loss, the chancellors of the imperial court would cheer and finally find an excuse to transfer him away and take away his military power, eliminating the obstacle to the throne for their favorite King Jing. Chu Li sighed in relief when he saw that King Ping had listened. He had a different idea from the chancellors. The chancellors were thinking about how to keep the Ji dynasty stable and prevent internal strife. Once there was internal strife, the Li dynasty would take advantage of the situation and the Ji dynasty would be in danger of being destroyed. Every time there was a change in a dynasty, it was usually because of internal problems that foreign enemies took advantage of. Dynasties that had no internal problems were almost never destroyed by foreign enemies. The most serious problem in the Ji dynasty was the civil and military struggle. King Jing had the civil and military ministers' hearts, while King Ping had the military ministers' hearts and controlled 100,000 troops. Once the two princes fought, the covetous Li dynasty would not let go of this opportunity. The chancellors of the imperial court wanted to remove King Ping's military power. Unfortunately, the emperor was insistent and they could not dissuade him. If the opportunity came, they would not let it go. Even if the emperor insisted, they would fight to the end. Chu Li felt that they had missed the opportunity to remove King Ping's military power. The Li dynasty was growing stronger and could attack the south at any time. King Ping had become an eyesore. Once King Ping was removed, the Li dynasty would no longer have any scruples and might attack immediately. Even if it was quenching their thirst with poison, they could only continue drinking. With time, there would be a chance to change. He felt that the Holy Church of Light was below him. The Holy Church of Light was the Li dynasty's religion. If the Holy Church of Light was strong, the Li dynasty would be strong. If they wanted to weaken the Li dynasty, they had to start with the Holy Church of Light. Now that the Holy Church of Light had obtained the complete Great Light Scripture, they would become stronger in the future. This required the 4 major sects to work together to deal with the Holy Church of Light and find ways to weaken them, just like how the Holy Church of Light dealt with King Ping. Your Royal Highness, the ring is with General Sun, Chu Li said. Please return it to General Sunday. I want to return it to the princess. A report came from outside. Your Royal Highness, General Sun is here. Come in, King Ping said. Sun Zhanhe lifted the curtains and entered the tent. He cupped his fists and said with a smile, Commander, I've been impolite. I almost killed this guard Lu. You did the right thing, King Ping said faintly with a calm expression. I would have done the same if I were you. Where's the thumb ring? Oh, here it is. Sun Jianhe took it out from his pocket and handed it over. King Ping took it and glanced at it. It was indeed his. He carefully caressed the white jade thumb ring, sighed and passed it to Chu Li. Go back and tell the princess that I will visit him in a month's time. Chu Li hurriedly said, Your Royal Highness, I'm just afraid that the princess won't be able to last a month. Shut up, King Ping scoffed. I believe that the princess will be able to hold on until I return. Yes, Chu Li said, the public house has already invited a famous doctor. Perhaps the princess will be fine. That's good. King Ping waved his hand and said, Go back immediately and report to me if anything happens. He thought for a moment and took out a wooden token from his bosom. With this, you can directly enter the camp and come to my tent. Yes, Your Royal Highness. Chu Li reached out and took the inconspicuous wooden token. The rectangular wooden token was half a palm wide and 1 palm long. It felt heavy in his hand, as if it was not made of wood but more like an iron token. He secretly gripped it. It was extremely hard, and could not be scratched by blades. It was definitely not an ordinary item. Your Royal Highness, heaven helps the worthy. Sun Jianhe sighed. I believe that the princess will turn misfortune into fortune. I hope so, King Ping said faintly. He waved his hand. You may go. Chu Li fist saluted, turned around and strode away. Sun Jianhe stared at his back until the tent's curtains stopped swaying. Only then did he look away. Your Royal Highness, there are really hidden talents in the public house. There's such a person. King Ping lowered his head to look at the sand table and said calmly, The princess has brought a servant here. He's been trained since young and is quite loyal. As expected of a noble family. Sun Jianhe sighed. King Ping looked up at him. Noble families also experience birth, old age, sickness, and death. It's nothing strange. Where is the Li dynasty's army? Around Bowling, Sun Jianhe replied. Looks like we'll have to teach them a lesson, King Ping muttered. Chu Li left the barracks and returned to King An's imperial residence in a flash. He sat on the couch in his bedroom and stared at the amethyst gold token. The sword technique contained in it was very mysterious. He wanted to try and see if he could decipher it. He used the omniscient mirror to see through the token from inside out. He could see every inch of it clearly. There were no abnormalities or talismans. This threatening aura was purely caused by the posture of the sword. It was truly mysterious. It was not inner energy or spiritual energy, but sword force. He tried to make a posture with the long sword. It was the same as the sword posture on the amethyst gold token, but it did not have the same shocking feeling. He looked at it again and again but could not see any result. So, he activated the nature restoration manifestation and reached the essence through the appearance. Perhaps the nature restoration manifestation could figure out why this sword force could shake people's heart. The nature restoration manifestation could simulate and analyze the posture of the person holding the sword through the short sword on the amethyst gold token. What kind of posture could produce such power? He studied it from night to the next morning but found nothing. Fortunately, these two sword techniques had been imprinted in his mind and would never be forgotten. As long as he used the nature restoration manifestation to search slowly, he would be able to find the posture that matched the sword force and comprehend these two sword techniques. Ling Qiu and Ling Qing came over to cultivate. Chu Li practiced a fist technique, and the power of the crouching bull punch gradually increased. After breakfast, he went to the Secret Guardians Hall. He felt that returning to the Secret Guardians Hall directly yesterday would be too shocking. Moreover, he had already informed King Ping, so he did not have to worry about the rest. Therefore, he felt at ease and slacked off as he slowly made his way to the Secret Guardians Hall. When he arrived at the main hall, he saw that apart from the two commanders, Chen Donghai was also sitting there with a gloomy expression. "Commander, I'm glad I didn't disappoint you. Chu Li Fist saluted and took out the wooden token from his inner pocket and handed it over. Fu Mengshan and Su Huanda looked at the wooden token and returned it to Chu Li. Does King Ping believe me? Fu Mengshan asked. Chu Li replied, I doubt it. He's prejudiced against the secret guardian's hall, but as long as he's suspicious and cautious, Sun Zhanhe won't succeed. That makes sense. Fu Mengshan let out a long sigh. Finally, there's something I don't have to worry about. Chu Li looked at Chen Donghai, whose head was hanging low. Fu Mengshan scoffed. Su Huanda said, Gu Qi escaped. Chu Li frowned and looked at Chen Donghai. Chen Donghai was expressionless as he said calmly, I've tried my best, but when I arrived at the Gu residence, he was already gone. Where are the Ning brothers? Chu Li asked. Fu Mengshan said, Oh, I didn't have time to tell you. Due to the urgency of the matter, they've already been dispatched. Chu Li nodded. It's my duty. Commander Su, this is similar to the time when the minister-counselor escaped. There's one real minister and one fake minister-counselor. Chapter 696. Chu Li shook his head. Commander, this might not work. After all, they're just a motley crew. They can't be compared to the Holy Church of Light. The Holy Church of Light would definitely send someone to assist Gu Qi. Moreover, they would learn from the previous lesson and send even more powerful masters over. Although the masters of the various martial arts sects were strong, they could not be compared to the top-notch masters of the Holy Church of Light. If this order was issued, it would only result in unnecessary casualties and damage to the vitality of the Ji dynasty's martial arts world. It was better not to issue it. Su Huanda said, This time, the Emperor has sent 4 high officials from the Imperial House to protect the Ning brothers. Once they find Gu Qi, they'll kill him at all costs. Imperial House High Official. Chu Li nodded. Has the Emperor come out of isolated cultivation? I just came out of seclusion last night. Fu Mengshan said, If we can't kill Gu Qi, the Secret Guardian's Hall will be in big trouble. The Emperor is already furious and said that we were too slow to realize this and are extremely incompetent. We didn't catch Gu Qi in advance and made such a big mistake. He glared at Chen Donghai as he spoke. Chen Donghai's expression darkened even further as he shook his head. At first, he thought that it would be a cushy job, and he easily became the first assassin. He even secretly praised Chu Li for knowing the rules and doing things as soon as he took the money. It was no wonder that he had 100,000 taels of silver. In the end, he had made such a huge mistake. If he could not kill Gu Qi in the end, his position as a centurion would come to an end. Chu Li frowned. Why is Gu Qi so vigilant? You're not suspecting that there's a traitor in the Secret Guardian's Hall, are you? Fu Mengshan asked. Chu Li shook his head. If it's not in the Secret Guardian's Hall, I'm afraid it's somewhere else. Forget it, it's too late to talk about this now. We need to kill Gu Qi first. Let me do it. With the 4 great reverends around, Gu Qi won't be able to escape. You still have things to do. Fu Mengshan shook his head and glanced at Su Huanda. Su Huanda passed the box on the table to Chu Li. Chu Li took it and opened it. There were many letters inside. He took them out one by one and scanned through them. After reading every single one of them, he looked at Fu Mengshan. Gu Qi's letter. Is he going to track down his accomplice? Fu Mengshan said, Out of all these letters, who are they addressed to the most? High Duke Ji. Chu Li frowned. Commander suspects that there's something wrong with High Duke Ji? Logically speaking, there's no need to doubt the loyalty of the House of High Dukes. It's impossible for them to betray the Emperor. Fu Mengshan sighed. The Secret Guardian's Hall monitors the High Duke's public house because we don't want them to overstep their authority. We're never worried that they'll rebel. Chu Li nodded slowly. The relationship between the High Duke's public house and the great Ji dynasty's royal family was very mysterious. There were some inside stories that he did not know about, which allowed the emperor to have absolute confidence in them. However, the human heart was unpredictable, and there were no eternal relationships. What does the emperor mean? Chu Li asked. Fu Mengshan shook his head. We didn't report this to the emperor. Let's investigate this in private first. You do it. Chu Li smiled bitterly. Commander, he came from the High Duke's public house. If they found out that there was something wrong with High Duke Ji, it would mean that the 12 High Dukes' public houses were no longer reliable. He would then become the enemy of the 12 High Dukes' public houses and become a traitor. His foundation would collapse. His investigation concluded that there was no problem with High Duke Ji and that he was not that trustworthy. After all, he was from the High Duke's public house, so they were in cahoots with each other. Su Wanda said, I know you're in a difficult position, but you're an expert in this field. We believe that you'll be impartial. If it was something else, the Secret Guardians Hall had plenty of talents. It did not have to be Chu Li, but Chu Li had a pair of eyes that were far sharper than others. This was not a trivial matter, so he was the most suitable person to handle it. Chu Li said, the High Duke's public house won't be able to run away either. This matter is not urgent, but we have to kill Gu Qi. I'll go after Gu Qi first, then we'll deal with this matter later. He really did not want to take over this matter, but looking at the two commanders, he had to do it himself. Young Chu. Fu Mengshan waved his hand. Going after Gu Qi is very dangerous. It's best that you don't get involved. Chu Li said, Commander, you know about my tracking technique. I can't just watch him escape back to the Li dynasty. He knows too much. Although the minister-counselor of the Ministry of War was not an important official, he was very important and knew more than other important officials. Fu Mengshan waved his hand. The Li dynasty will definitely send top-notch masters to receive him. What are you going to do? Su Wanda said, Chu Li, your martial arts is strong, but there's always someone stronger than you, especially the Holy Church of Light. They have many masters, so you have to be careful. Fu Mengshan said, also, the matter with the Ji public house can't be dragged on. Once the news is leaked, all evidence will be destroyed. All right. Chu Li nodded. Fu Mengshan smiled. Don't worry about Gu Qi. These 4 high officials from the Imperial House are all top-notch masters. They're not inferior to you, young Chu. Chu Li smiled. That's good. Outsiders could not see his depth because of the life and death scripture and the heavenly demonic power. Once he activated the heavenly demonic power, his combat strength would increase by 3 to 4 times. Fu Mengshan said that the high officials from the Imperial House were about the same level as him, so he was even more worried. He decided to act secretly. Fu Mengshan and Su Wanda could tell that he was lying, so they gave him a few instructions on what to pay attention to in the Ji public house. Then, they waved their hands and dismissed him. Chu Li returned to the main hall of Mei Air Courtyard with the correspondence between Gu Qi and High Duke Ji. Yang Zongwen hurriedly welcomed him. Qin Jin and the other 3 were recuperating. The others were not in Mei Air Courtyard. The news of Gu Qi's escape had not spread. They were scattered around the fairy's capital to inquire about the news. They wanted to see if there was any news about Gu Qi. Yang Zongwen followed him in and took out a silk pouch. He handed it to Chu Li. Centurion, this is Gu Qi's personal item. Chu Li smiled in satisfaction. Yang Zongwen was getting better at doing things. He did not need Chu Li's instructions to do things in advance. For example, collecting personal items, he did not need Chu Li's instructions to do so. This time, he must have bribed the people in Mei Yi Courtyard to get this item. Chu Li appeared in the backyard of the Ren public house. It was early in the morning. The backyard of the Ren public house was immersed in silence. Lu Yurong was dressed in a white silk outfit. She was practicing her swordsmanship lightly and valiantly. The gleam of her sword was like clear waves, silently enveloping her surroundings. Good swordsmanship, Chu Li suddenly said. Lu Yurong sheathed her sword and the gleam disappeared. Her clear eyes looked over. What is it now? Chu Li said, the minister-counselor of the Ministry of War, Gu Qi, is from the Holy Church of Light. He has escaped. I want to kill him. The minister-counselor again. Lu Yurong frowned. He still hasn't learned his lesson from the last time. Why is the same thing happening again? The last time was fake. This time, it's real. Chu Li shook his head. The Holy Church of Light is too powerful. They can actually instigate a minister-counselor of the Ministry of War. Moreover, it's a young minister-counselor with a bright future. The younger one is, the easier it is to instigate a rebellion. Lu Yurong sheathed her sword. Her white face had a faint blush which added to her charm. She said, young people are greedier. They want everything. Money, women, power. They can't wait any longer. Are you going? Chu Li asked. Lu Yurong said, now? Chu Li nodded. This time, it's probably more dangerous than the last time. Lu Yurong scoffed. If it's not dangerous, why would you come looking for me? Lu Yurong walked closer to him. She hung the white veil beside her ear, covering her charming face. A faint fragrance floated into his nose. It was refreshing. Let's go. Chu Li smiled. He grabbed her wrist. Even through the sleeve, he could still feel the coolness and exquisiteness of her skin. In a flash, they disappeared. Chapter 697. Gu Qi was a dark-skinned, handsome young man. His eyes were bright and spirited. He looked like he was in high spirit. When the two suddenly appeared, he reined in his horse and straightened his back. He sat on the horse and looked down at the two, full of arrogance. Chu Li closed-fist saluted. Minister-Counselor Gu, where are you going? Why are you alone? He used the omniscient mirror to scan the surroundings. There were no masters within 5 miles. Gu Qi was indeed traveling alone. This was different from what he imagined. Chu Li, head chief Chu. Gu Qi looked at Chu Li coldly. His gaze landed on Lu Yurong's bright eyes. He said lightly, this lady is? Lu Yurong looked at him without saying a word. Chu Li said, Minister-Counselor Gu, I'm curious. Why did you betray the Ji dynasty? I am a disciple of the Holy Church of Light. Gu Qi smiled. He sat on the horse and looked down at him. That's why you shouldn't say those things about me being heartless and betraying the Ji dynasty. It's my duty to be loyal to the Li dynasty. No matter how good the Ji dynasty is, it's still my enemy. Enemy? Chu Li frowned. Gu Qi said, I used to live in the eastern border. My parents died under the swords of the Ji dynasty's soldiers. Chu Li scoffed, forget it. Let's fight to the death for our respective masters. Very well. Gu Qi laughed. I have long heard of your name, Head Chief Chu. I would like to see it for myself. Chu Li said, let's give it a try. He slowly punched out. A faint moo sound could be heard. It was the crouching bull punch. Gu Qi's horse neighed and jumped back. Gu Qi leaped into the air and punched out. It was a pure divine light fist. He was also a grandmaster. Qi. With a soft whistling sound, Lu Yurong's waist flashed with a cold light, and she glided towards Gu Qi as if she was dancing. The tip of her sword was 1 step faster than her, and had already reached Gu Qi's chest, about to pierce through it. Gu Qi exhaled and moved half a foot to avoid the tip of the sword. He stared at Lu Yurong in shock. Lu Yurong had such a pair of beautiful eyes, she must be a beauty, yet she did such a despicable thing. Chu Li activated the manifestation of nature restoration and had already used the divine light fist. The moment Gu Qi dodged the tip of the sword and lost all his strength, the divine light fist landed on him. Pung! Gu Qi flew into the air. Chu Li threw another punch. With a bang, Gu Qi was sent flying again, far away. Lu Yurong chased after him. Her sword gleamed like ripples as it sliced towards Gu Qi, intending to decapitate him. "Be careful!" Chu Li suddenly shouted and stepped in front of Lu Yurong, blocking the white light that came from afar. He did not have the time to pull out his sword. The white light was already not far from his chest, so he threw out a punch. It was the most solid crouching bull punch. Chi. After the white light was hit by the crouching bull divine fist, not only did it not slow down, it actually sped up and became twice as fast. It suddenly disappeared before his eyes and pierced through his chest before Li Li could dodge. Boom! The white light turned into a ball of flame in his body, as if it was going to burn him into ashes. Chu Li only felt the strength in his body leaking out from his chest. His chest had been pierced. No matter how strong he was, he would die. The heavenly demonic orb swallowed the ball of flame and landed on his chest. Instantly, an endless amount of energy flowed through his body. It was everywhere and the feeling of weakness was suppressed. He looked down at his chest and saw that the bleeding had stopped. The scripture of life and death continued to circulate. Spiritual energy surged from all directions, nourishing his chest and speeding up the recovery of his chest. Chi. Another white light shot towards him. Chu Li grabbed Lu Yurong's slender waist and avoided the white light. The white light continued to shoot into the distance and disappeared. Chu Li's omniscient mirror saw that it was a flying blade. It was crystal clear and looked like a flying blade made of ice. It was almost invisible to the naked eye, and it was even harder to see when it was flying. Gu Qi endured the pain and weakness, rolled to the side, and hid behind a tree. Chu Li did not care about Gu Qi and whispered, "Let's go." Through the omniscient mirror, Chu Li saw a ball of white light appear out of nowhere. It was as bright as the sun, and it almost shattered his omniscient mirror. His forehead swelled slightly. The light was too bright, and it felt like he was looking directly at the midday sun. "Who is it?" Lu Yurong asked. Chu Li shook his head. He could not see the person clearly. He could only see a ball of white light like the sun. Just as he was about to use God's limbs, he realized that he could not move. God's limbs did not work. In the time it took for him to speak, the white light shot towards them. It was a handsome young man. He had sharp eyebrows and bright eyes. His nose was sharp and his eyebrows were slanted to the side of his temples. He was truly a dazzling sight. He stood on the treetop and looked at Chu Li and Lu Yurong. He glanced at Chu Li's chest and frowned. He asked coldly, "Who are you, priest?" Gu Qi popped his head out from behind the tree. His voice was hoarse and unpleasant. "This is the famous young hero of the Ji dynasty, Chu Li. Chu Li of the north and Du Feng of the south," the handsome young man said. "You live up to your reputation." He spoke casually and calmly, but naturally had a condescending elegance and calmness. He did not take Chu Li and Lu Yurong seriously at all. Chu Li frowned. He realized that the omniscient mirror did not work on this person. There was only a ball of blinding light around him. God's limbs did not work either. He must have a holy item similar to the Sarira prayer bead. Chu Li's chest was healing continuously. The power of the heavenly demonic power was showing. The heavenly demonic orb seemed to have a strong healing effect. Coupled with the spiritual energy absorbed by the life and death scripture, the healing speed was even faster. Chu Li asked, "May I know who you are?" Gu Qi clutched his chest and walked to the handsome young man with difficulty. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. After coughing twice, he straightened his chest and said proudly, "This is the Holy Church's priest, Fang Qingyang." Chu Li's two divine light fists were activated by the cloud slashing power. His inner energy kept hurting him and his injuries were getting worse. "Priest," Chu Li said slowly, "how many priests does your church have?" "4." Fang Qingyang looked at him calmly. "Chu Li, you survived my light blade. That's impressive. I wonder how many more blades you can take. What item do you have that can restrain divine powers? Chu Li asked. Fang Qingyang looked at him deeply. Looks like you've cultivated Buddhist divine powers. Chu Li nodded slowly. Fang Qingyang snorted. No wonder you're so famous. Chu Li could not tell what he was thinking. He asked, You have a Buddhist holy item, don't you? I've cultivated the divine light body. Why would I need a Buddhist holy item? Fang Qingyang smiled. The divine light body is the real body of Mahavairokkana. It's the king of all Buddhas. It suppresses the world and restrains all Buddhist divine powers. Chu Li said, No wonder. Fang Qingyang said calmly, With the divine light body, my body is like a stream of light. No matter how powerful your light body technique is, you won't be able to escape from my light blade. It's better for you to kill yourselves, lest you suffer when you return to the Holy Church. Chu Li said, You won't know until you fight. Fang Qingyang shook his head. You won't shed a tear until you see your coffin. I'll fulfill your wish. His body flashed like a stream of light and appeared in front of Chu Li in an instant. He threw a punch at Chu Li's chest. His body movement technique was so fast that it was almost as fast as Chu Li's god's limbs. Chu Li dodged to the side. Swoosh! A white light flew past Chu Li's chest. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.